Chapter 199. Creak, creak. The old lift was still 200 years old. Large amounts of black hair were embedded in the mechanical shaft, causing the lift to move at an abnormally slow speed. Sometimes it would even stall. "Why do you want me to come down? You should be able to handle it by yourself, right?" Mia had an unwilling expression. "When we are alone, you don't need to disguise yourself. You have already sensed the danger, so you deliberately stayed at the back of the group. You did everything you could to preserve your strength, so that when the danger comes, you can immediately escape, right?" Hee. When Han Dong said this, Mia's expression and eyes instantly changed. Her drooping eyes were gloomy. She had a very dejected look as she stared at Han Dong from the side. Even her words became cold, and she no longer pretended to be young. She asked with a strange expression, "I really don't understand. Why do you have to work so hard? In this test, the Night Regiment will give us freshmen special care. As long as we can cross the passing line by a few points, we should be able to get an excellent evaluation. Even if it's bad, it will still be good. It should be enough to ensure that we receive more resources and preferential treatment in the academy. What's the point of working so hard?" Han Dong explained in a low voice, "I have my own ideas. If I can touch upon the essence of the Stuart clan, I can profit from it. If you don't want to work hard like this, I won't have any requests for you after this. You only need to be responsible for the supply of potions to the team." Mia placed a finger on her lips and asked curiously, "What's the matter? Let me guess, is it related to your eyes? To practice this kind of evil technique, you must need all kinds of materials, right? You must plunder the necessary materials and props from these life forms outside the city to realize the evolution of your eyes." "More or less. Of course, I am also very interested in the secret of the manor. Plus, there are many treasures buried outside the city. If you are willing to continue to help, and even use all the curses you can control in some extremely dangerous situations, I can consider giving you some benefits." "What benefits?" "If there are any treasures in the manor, I can give you some according to your needs. Also, if you need my help in suppressing the spider curse, I can help you once." Mia sneered. "Dear Nicholas, you don't have to worry about the curse. I'll figure it out myself. I won't do things that are too dangerous. If you continue to investigate like this, you might really run into the hybrid demons hiding in the manor. If I do, I'll run away immediately. Anyway, you need to help me deal with this, Barber Charlie, first. We should be able to dig out some secrets about the manor from him. This manor should have been a place of evil before the darkness descended. Then can you treat her a little better? It all depends on your performance." Crack, 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 they took the dilapidated lift and arrived at the lowest level. It was different from the private office he had imagined. The elevator was facing a passage formed by countless black hairs, and the air was filled with a rancid smell. Seeing this scene, even Mia was a little scared and leaned her body closer to Han Dong. The walls on the left and right were filled with thick black hair. There were also many human heads buried in the black hair. Their eyes, nostrils, and mouths were filled with black hair. No, it should be growing black hair. The wriggling black hair could cause visual pollution, but it had no effect on Han Dong. They passed through this strange passage of black hair. What appeared in front of them was a spacious and huge area, similar to a sacrificial hall. This was Barber Charlie's important office, also known as the Black Hair Production Area. It was one of the most important areas in the Stuart Manor. The pollution index was twice as high as above. The black and white styled Barber Charlie was currently standing on an even larger black-haired giant that was 7 meters tall, sticking to the back of its neck. Using the scissors between his fingers, he was performing a crazy haircut on the creation. A barber. He was more like a black-haired stitcher in the Stuart Manor, creating all kinds of black hair for the great lord and secretly guarding the manor. "I'm in the middle of a haircut. I don't have time to deal with you." The barber waved his hand. 10 black-haired women walked out from the wall formed by the pile of black hair. Their long black hair hung on the ground, and the bones in their bodies were replaced by hair. Because they did not have the support of bones, they moved in a twisted and deformed manner, looking strange and terrifying. However, these black-haired women belonged to the low-level evil creatures, and their abilities were stronger than ordinary white-bone evil creatures. Mia, I'll leave these small things to you. After you've dealt with them, you can help me deal with the big things. Dealing with 10 evil creatures, you really think highly of me. What? You want me to deal with the small ones, and you go fight with the barber? No, please. I'll help you after I've dealt with these small things. After saying that, Mia took off her mask. The berserk aura from the swarm, together with the curse, filled Mia's body. Crackle! 4 terrifying spider legs protruded from the skin on her back and suddenly grew out. At the same time, using magic, a large number of black bone arrows floated around Mia's body, automatically shooting towards the attacking black-haired women, attracting their attention. Hu Han-dong took a deep breath and walked towards the barber step by step. One of the black-haired evil creatures was not attracted by Mia, and rushed towards Han-dong in a crawling manner. Swish, swish, swish. The black hair stuck to the ground, just as it was about to wrap around Han-dong's body. Puff! The head of the evil creature was grabbed by Han-dong, firmly holding it in the air. He did not give it any chance to struggle. Buzz! A tentacle drilled into the evil creature's head. In the blink of an eye, that evil creature's heart was accurately rolled out by the tentacle. The evil creature's black hair was instantly disintegrated, leaving only a pool of dirty water on the ground. The heart only lasted for a second, and then turned into a drop of blood essence at the tip of the tentacle, which was absorbed and stored by Han-dong. Mia was right. Han-dong was so eager for quick success that he accepted a difficult mission in an attempt to find out the truth of the matter. For now, he had reached a bottleneck in the practice of the Book of Necromancy, manuscript. Han-dong needed to further improve the little magic eye to be able to read the content of the next chapter normally, and the improvement process needed to absorb the essence of life outside the city. Such a small amount, this kind of low-level evil creatures, is far from enough. I have to use this training to complete the first chapter of the Book of Necromancy. If there really is a hybrid demon, then I really hit the jackpot. Han-dong's action of killing a black-haired creature immediately attracted the barber's attention. For a moment, the hair in the black hair creation room began to move restlessly. Chapter 200. 3 months of basic training. Han-dong was able to completely restrain the pollution, so much so that he could open the little magic eye in any situation and explain it as a stitched product. Not only could he deceive the knights, he could also deceive these creatures outside the city. It was the same in the eyes of the barber, Charlie. He just thought that Han-dong had this special eye that could resist the invasion of pollution and improve his perception. In contrast, Han-dong's combat ability was not so strong. At present, when an ordinary black-haired creature attacked Han-dong, its heart was instantly extracted and directly obliterated. And the way it was obliterated was a little strange. In an instant, the barber seemed to feel a sense of danger that made his heart palpitate. I felt that you were a little special from the beginning. The black-haired creature made with you as a shell may become my best masterpiece. After saying that, the entire black-haired manufacturing room began to become restless. Most of the black hair that had been collected and cultivated for 200 years gushed out like a tide. Mia, who was in the middle of a battle, quickly retreated and climbed up the wall with her spider legs to avoid being swept into the tide of black hair. Swoosh, 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 uncountable black hair cascading down with Han-dong as the center, it completely engulfed the bottom floor of the manufacturing room. If an ordinary person was swept into it, they would definitely be pierced by the black hair and die instantly. However, Han-dong stood in place as if nothing had happened. The little magic eye between his eyebrows continued to emit a silver light, like an invisible protective shield, keeping the black hair at least half a meter away. The actual principle was only because of the difference in level. The essence of black hair was also a kind of assimilated pollution, the lowest type. But the origin of Han Dong's eye was not simple. If a fierce lion in the forest stepped into the dragon's nest one day and looked into the dragon's eyes, it would not have any desire to attack. Fear would be the lion's only emotion. Togu, can you deal with this hair? For a moment, the ground cracked and a pentagram mark of purgatory appeared. It seemed that an ancient demon was about to crawl out. Togu, who was wearing a black leather coat and had a saw blade inlaid on his forehead, stood on the surface of the mark. Yes? Okay, the plan is like this. Barber Charlie, who was standing on the giant creation, had a puzzled look on his face. This was because he could feel that these black hairs were afraid of the young man at the bottom, but he did not know why. At the moment, Charlie was still unable to manually control the black hair. After all, to control such a huge amount of black hair would require a lot of energy. It could only carry out the simplest of storing and releasing. Affected by the fog and evil thoughts, the hair would usually hunt other life forms on its own. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. What happened? Just as the barber was wondering between the layers of black hair, there was a faint fiery red glow. There seemed to be some ashes in the air. A wave of heat slowly seeped out from his black hair. Its temperature seemed to be even higher than Dempsey's fire spells. As the main component of hair was keratin, high temperatures would immediately cause the denaturation of the keratin. Lava power. Under the effect of the high temperature of the lava, the black hair covering Han Dong's head was immediately melted into a hole before the surrounding black hair could fill the hole. Clang! 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 Two scorching iron chains suddenly stretched out from the hole. They pointed directly at the barber on top. Iron chains? Why is there such a high temperature? Before the iron chains could wrap around him, the barber quickly dodged. Clang! However, the main purpose of the iron chains was not to wrap around him. Instead, it tightly clung to the barber's position and found a fixed point, which was the shoulder of the giant creation with a height of 7 meters. Fixed, pulled. Black hair stretched out from the hole. With the help of the iron chains, Togu carried Han Dong out of the hole. The two of them landed steadily on the giant creation's shoulder. As the giant creation was not yet complete, it did not have consciousness and could not move, so it could be used as a good battlefield. Mr. Han Dong, do you need my help? The 10-meter teleportation range will allow me to appear directly behind the target. Even if I can't kill him, I can at least seriously injure him. The battle after that will be very simple. When they encountered their first enemy outside the city, Chun-Li, who had just refined the evil pill in her body, could not wait to move her muscles and bones. However, Han Dong still refused. This is only one of the family members in the manor. There is a certain possibility that the owner of this manor is monitoring the situation below in some way. I will let you out later. What is this thing? Barber Charlie stared at the newcomer from hell. Togu's aura did not belong to a human, nor did it belong to a life form outside the city. This barber, who had only stayed in the manor all his life, had never seen such a life form. Of course, a dangerous aura was constantly emitted from Togu's body. At this moment, Han Dong made an unimaginable move. In the face of such a high-level evil, even a third-year elite student would not dare to relax their vigilance. They would use all their strength to kill the target, so as to avoid being attacked by the pollution for too long. Han Dong, however, sat down with a very leisurely expression. Han Dong was different from other people. The most dangerous pollution, attribute of life forms outside the city, had no effect on him. In Han Dong's eyes, life forms outside the city were similar to the terrifying existence in the Destiny realm. The aura emitted by Barber Charlie was indeed quite dangerous, But Togu was not bad either. There were 2 ways for Togu to grow. The first was nourishment through pain. The second was killing enemies stronger than oneself. It was precisely because of the second point that Han Dong intended to purely be a spectator of this battle, so that Togu could directly confront this barber and hone his skills in battle. Togu, I'll leave it to you. Yes, Master. Togu, who was forcibly taken in, was more obedient to Han Dong on a conscious level. His arm dragged the heavy iron chain as he walked towards the barber. In contrast, the barber was puzzled, but at the same time, he revealed a happy expression. A new species. You will definitely become the most perfect black-haired creation, so much so that you will be rewarded by the great Lord. For a moment, the barber also revealed his true attitude. This barber Charlie was proficient in more than just the black-haired ability. The 2 colors of black and white symbolized 2 different ability systems. Kacha. A pair of scissor-like blades slowly grew from the fingertips of his white-gloved right hand, which could easily cut through any hard object. Not only that, 5 exceptionally tough strands of hair shot out from the fingertips of his black-gloved left hand, pulling out 5 terrifying objects from the wall of black hair. Each strand of hair corresponded to a black-haired puppet. They were all the barber's masterpieces and could move according to his thoughts. You said you were a barber, but you minored in stitching and puppetry. Cheating. Looking at the flickering silvery scissors and the various terrifying puppets, Han Dong had an awkward smile on his face. He was already prepared to make a move. Chapter 201. At the top of the black hair workshop, Mia, who was in her spider form, had already dealt with all the low-level filth that had surrounded her. She even ate the filth's heart as a dessert to replenish the energy consumed during the activation of the curse. This time, Mia's release of the curse seemed to be a level higher than the last time in the witch's swamp. The change in her form was even greater, so much so that with her tailbone as the center, a spindle with a circular pattern grew out, commonly known as the spider's butt. A thick strand of spider silk extended out of the spindle and suspended Mia in midair. In addition, many compound eyes had also grown on Mia's forehead. Through multiple zoom, she could clearly observe the battle taking place on her creation's shoulders and back. Mia muttered to herself. An evil and low voice came out from her mouth. Warren Nicholas seems to have a containment ability. If I'm not wrong, this demon and the other red-clothed woman should have come from the Destiny realm. Such a guy doesn't exist in the real world. At least, this bald demon doesn't exist. It's really strange. According to the Destiny realm's rules, the items inside, even if it's a pencil, are not allowed to be brought back to the real world. They can only exchange for items from the Dyson sphere through the points exchange. The price of a living servant like this would cost at least thousands or even tens of thousands of points. He must have a containment method that even the Destiny realm can't interfere with. He can suppress the monsters in the incident, sign a contract, and bring them back to the real world. Your secret is really fascinating. I'll definitely pester you until I know all about you. Speaking of which, this barber is really powerful. It shouldn't be easy to deal with just this demon. I'll just help him at the crucial moment. Ding! Clang! Clang! Various sounds of metal colliding echoed. The 5 black-haired puppets controlled by the barber surrounded Togu with sharp claws, blunt weapons, corrosive liquid, and various other means. When some of the sharp weapons cut Togu's body, there were even flames that came out. However, Togu, who was surrounded, didn't move at all. In the true sense, he had copper skin and iron bones. Togu's origin was related to the old Dray town and the Hell realm. His faith was greater than his own desires. This caused Togu to embark on a path to Hell early on. Endless suffering and suffering, bathing in the lava of Hell, allowed Togu to possess an unusual mortal body. Chain strike, they were covered in chains with lava characteristics and combined with Togu's enormous strength. Togu's waist and abdomen twisted, exerting the strength of his arms. Whoosh! The Hell Realm, Togu was forced the 5 black-haired puppets, Togu's leg, Togu crack. Togu was with Togu. Togu 2, Togu of Togu. The scorching heat of the lava emitted from Togu's body made it impossible for a situation like the binding of black hair to materialize on his body. Togu of Togu taught Togu. Togu 2. Just as Togu waved his iron chain to sweep away the puppets, the barber disappeared without a trace. Togu. Behind you. Han Dong's reminder was a step too late. The sharp scissors were already stabbing towards Togu's back. The material of the scissors was extraordinary. It actually tore apart Togu's skin, which was as hard as steel. Vaguely, a dark golden spine could be seen, Kacha. The scissors bit down, leaving a cut on the surface of the spine. At the same time, it cut off several blood vessels attached to the spine. Scorching black blood splattered all over the ground. Although Togu felt that this kind of pain was very comfortable. However, he was facing an enemy, so he naturally had to put on an angry expression. By the time Togu turned around, the barber had already disappeared again. He reappeared in his original position, and the 5 puppets led by the Black Hand continued to besiege him. Tuagu's brain wasn't very bright. He couldn't figure out what was going on. However, Han Dong, who was sitting not too far away, saw the whole process of the barber's disappearance and reappearance clearly. It wasn't a matter of speed. It was a problem with the venue. The battlefield was located on the shoulders and the upper half of the giant creation's back. The essence of this creation was still hair. The barber's method of rapid teleportation was only to sync his body and merge with the creation's body. Using the black hair in his body to push forward quickly, he just needed to reappear behind Togu. The whole process was completed within the creation's body. With the black hair helping to conceal his presence, and with the interference of the 5 puppets, Togu couldn't clearly see the barber's position. The barber used this kind of secret movement, coupled with the special scissors growing out of his right hand, to break through Togu's defense. If this continued, Togu would gradually fall into a disadvantageous situation. Moreover, because he had been attacked many times, the dark golden spine on his back was completely exposed. This spine symbolized an important part of Togu's body. Once it was damaged, it would be life-threatening. Kacha, the scissors had already left more than 10 marks on the surface of the spine. If this continued, perhaps something really would happen. After all, the fatal part had been completely exposed. However, Han Dong still maintained his sitting position. Only the expression in his eyes changed slightly. Mr. Han Dong, Togu won't be able to hold on. Let me go help him. Normally, Togu was a very boring person. He stared at the Bible in his cell from dawn to dusk and never chatted. However, after spending some time together in prison, Chunli had already regarded Togu as a companion, especially when Togu took the initiative to lend a helping hand when he was refining evil spirit. No need. What if something happens? The person I chose won't lose so easily. Togu is very unusual. His thinking has long surpassed that of ordinary people. Currently, his actions seem to be blocked and he is in a predicament. However, if you observe carefully, you will find that Togu seems to be enjoying all of this. If I'm not wrong, Togu, who used to live in Old Dray Town, should spend a lot of time satisfying himself every day. After all, this is his biggest hobby. After staying in prison for so long, you aren't very familiar with him. It's not good for you to whip him. After enduring for so long, Togu naturally wants to enjoy meeting an opponent who is destructive enough. Just watch quietly. When it's necessary, I'll naturally make a move. Han Dong saw through it very clearly. Togu's dark golden spine seemed to be a weak point, but in fact, It was the strongest part of his body. It was impossible to damage it. Moreover, as the battle dragged on, there were more and more fire particles in the air. Chapter 202. The battle continued. Togu's body had been scratched by the special scissors that grew out of the barber's right hand. Apart from the exposed golden spine, there was nothing else. His skull, chest, ribs, and thigh bones could all be seen through several deep wounds. A high temperature and dark liquid was spilled all over the ground, because of a large number of wounds all over Togu's body. The puppets, who were originally unable to break through Togu's skin defense, could also attack the wounds and further expand the injuries. The only thing that didn't make sense was, no matter how serious the injuries were, no matter how much oil was lost, Togu's movements never showed any signs of slowing down. In addition, as time passed, the ambient temperature was also rising. 30 degrees Celsius, 33 degrees Celsius, 40 degrees Celsius, 47 degrees Celsius, 55 degrees C. Even if the barber was not injured because of the puppet's cover and the geographical advantage. As the temperature rose, his entire body became uncomfortable, and he slowly became irritable. We must incapacitate him as soon as possible and throw him into the damp. The barber's impatience made him make a wrong decision. He locked his target on a wound on Togu's thigh. Sink, move, float, attack. This kind of sneak attack process was already very skillful. Swish. The scissors stabbed into the wound. Because many blood vessels were destroyed, a large amount of dark red liquid immediately flowed out. The barber's goal was to completely destroy Togu's thigh and hinder Togu's movements. Therefore, when he tried to further cut the internal structure and cripple Togu's left leg, because he had appeared for too long this time, he only heard bang, bang. Togu grabbed the barber's arm and ignored the puppet's attack. He lowered his head. Togu used his pitch-black, abyss-like eyes to stare at the barber, who only knew how to sneak attack. He imitated Han Dong and spat out a kind of English that was not very fluent. Gotch. Got you, brute force. Togu's strength was not small at all. Even if he was demoted, he was still powerful. Such a brute force pulled out the barber, whose body was still half stuck in the black hair. Clang, clang, clang. At the same time, the iron chain that extended from the barber's arm wrapped around the barber's body. However, the barber was not to be outdone. 5 black fingers quickly controlled the black-haired puppet to the most serious wound on Togu's thigh. It further expanded the wound that could already see the internal structure. Crack! Something snapped. Togu's right leg lost all feeling. His entire body fell to the ground with a plop. However, Togu's palm wouldn't loosen even if he was beaten to death. The scorching hot iron chains had already wrapped around the barber's entire body. The heat of the lava was currently roasting the barber. Sizzle! Black steam continued to seep out from the area where the chains were attached to the skin. After the skin was destroyed, the black strands of hair that were swimming in the barber's body were revealed, along with some of the metallic structures that were overflowing with silver light. This process caused Charlie the barber to scream in pain. The pain made Charlie reveal his inhuman side. A rather thick tentacle grew out of his mouth. The tip of the tentacle was split into 2, and it just so happened to wrap around a pair of scissors that were 3 times the size of the tentacle. The tentacle frantically attacked Togu. This pair of scissors was even more special. It actually pierced through Togu's neck in just a few moves. Just as he was about to cut the internal blood vessels, 2 figures attacked at the same time. The first to arrive was a female spider. It waved its extremely sharp legs and pointed them at the 5 puppets. It accurately cut into the core of the puppets, causing abnormalities in the control of the 5 puppets of different shapes. It cut off the thin traction line in the air that was difficult to see with the naked eye, allowing the puppets to break free from the barber's control. When the barber sensed that someone was ambushing him, it was already too late. A metallic claw that contained plague slashed over. Whoosh! With just one claw, The barber's back was completely torn open. The internal structure of his back was revealed. A layer of metallic structure was embedded in the large amount of swimming black hair. This was also why Togu was unable to crush the barber's head, and why the iron chains were unable to melt his body. It was all because of the protection of this layer of metal in his body. As expected, your main body isn't black hair, but scissors. The great leader will kill all of you. At that time, I will also be resurrected. The barber completely went crazy. He changed his target and pointed the large pair of scissors that were pulled out from the tentacle in his mouth at Han Dong. See through. Bah! Han Dong just happened to tilt his head and avoid the scissors' attack. At the same time, he grabbed the tentacle with his hand. At this time, the barber also revealed a frightened expression. It seemed that this tentacle was extremely important to him. The next scene was a little bit difficult to describe. The main function of the G-virus was to maximize the stimulation of the right arm. Han Dong used all of his strength and pulled outwards. The virus in the muscle cells constantly stimulated cell division and at the same time increased the production of actin. The muscles on Han Dong's right arm were visibly transforming at an uncanny speed. Pull. Whoosh The tentacle seemed to be connected to an important part of the barber's body. During the pulling, the black hair and the metal violently collided in the barber's body. Finally, the broken tentacle and a large amount of broken black hair scattered on the ground. A heart inlaid with silver scissors was held in Han Dong's hand. This was obviously different from the ordinary evil heart. Han Dong even felt that this scissors that was combined with the heart was a treasure. Barber Charlie is a dead object, scissors transformed. As the great leader's personal barber, he should have a strong obsession with scissors. Even after death, most of his obsession was left on the scissors and not his body. This kind of strong and perverted obsession caused a distortion effect after the Dark Age descended. This barber was reborn with scissors as his body and continued to serve the great leader. Due to the barber's uniqueness, when he grew to a certain extent, his body and heart were almost completely integrated. If he could continue, the barber would transcend the evil and become a higher existence. But this process was not easy. This scissors, maybe it's a special treasure? Han Dong's palm grew a tentacle and inserted it into the heart to purify and absorb the pollution. Only the silver scissors that exuded a filthy evil aura was left. Wow, it's rare. Chaos item. Mia stared at the scissors in Han Dong's hand with a look of surprise. Chaos item? Yes, don't you know? Killing outside the city has a small probability of dropping such an item. It's equivalent to destiny item, but the two are fundamentally different, but the effect is very good. Let's go back and talk about it. Han Dong put away the scissors for the time being. He half squatted beside Togu and praised, "Well done. You restrain the puppet and completely enrage the barber at the same time, giving me a chance to kill him in one strike." At the same time, he patted Togu's shoulder, intending to let him heal in prison. But when he looked closer, Han Dong found something unusual. Togu, who was seriously injured and even had a broken leg, was still in a state of enjoyment. It seemed that if he was serious, he could end this battle alone. But because it was too comfortable, he wanted to enjoy it a little longer. Moreover, after defeating Barber Charlie, Togu did not grow. Chapter 203. At the mouth of the stone well, blacksmith Wen Li, who had been tying the spider silk to her wrist, suddenly felt a slight tugging force from the other end of the spider silk. Yes, they're back. Wen Li was excited and immediately used all her strength to pull the spider silk. This tug was incredible. It directly pulled the string of people out from the bottom of the well. The 4 people who had just grabbed the spider's silk at the bottom of the well could not resist this huge force at all, and their bodies were quickly pulled up. It was as exhilarating as riding a roller coaster, flying nearly 10 meters out from the mouth of the well. Mia immediately adjusted her center of gravity in midair, spitting out spider's silk to stick to the eaves on one side, and using the spider's silk to pull her back to the ground easily. Demps, on the other hand, used a kind of wind magic to reduce the speed of his descent and land steadily. Captain Abel naturally did not need to worry, such a height was nothing to him, and he did not need to slow down at all to land steadily. Only Han Dong's situation was not so good. "Ah, Vice Captain!" Blacksmith Wenli screamed when she saw that she was too excited and made a mistake. She stared at the vice captain, who had lost his center of gravity in midair, and ran towards the predicted landing point. Pa, she spread out her strong and muscular arms and caught Han Dong steadily. This scene of a princess carrying seemed a little out of place. Wenli also immediately realized that something was wrong and quickly put Han Dong down. "I'm sorry. Because the spider silk was broken for a long time, Daru and I were already planning to go down to look for you. Who knew that the spider silk would suddenly react, and I used too much strength in my excitement. By the way, Vice Captain, your body is so light." It's fine." Blacksmith Wenli was a little embarrassed, rubbing her hands back and forth in front of her, and asked tentatively, "Vice Captain, have you investigated the situation in the underground well? Are you going to officially participate in the Black Hair in the Well mission now? It's done, let's go turn in the mission." "Ah!" Wenli was surprised. "Didn't you say that this mission was very difficult?" "Indeed. Including the time when Han Dong went down alone to check for danger, and the time when the four of them went down the well, it was less than an hour. Generally speaking, it was possible for such a difficult mission to take half a day." Wenli originally thought that the captain and vice-captain would conduct a comprehensive exploration of the underground space. Once the target was determined, they would regroup and the six of them would go down the well together to get rid of the source of the black hair. Wenli also wanted to show off her role as a free person. "Wenli, don't keep talking to the vice-captain. The fact that we were able to complete this mission smoothly and quickly is directly related to the vice-captain. Let him rest for a while." "Got it." Charlie the barber was successfully dealt with. After meeting up with Abel and Demps again, Han Dong deliberately put on a weak appearance after a great battle. Abel wasn't in a hurry to ask about the details. He let Han Dong have a good rest first. They would talk about it when they returned to their residence. The group of people left the stone well area. A black figure walked out from the shadows. His face was filled with confusion. This person was Vulture Kenny, who was in charge of the team's safety. He had only seen the battle between Abel, Demps, and the black-haired creation from outside the door. He couldn't see the battle happening deeper inside. In the end, the Crow Prophet student and another witch apprentice worked together to kill the high-grade foulness and complete the mission. The total time spent on the battle was exactly half an hour. This student, where did he come from? The special artificial eye between his eyebrows should be related to suturing and astrology. He spent a lot of effort on these two subjects, and he also had to devote most of his energy to the observation of this eye. His combat ability shouldn't be strong. Could it be that this student of the witch Kylonia has a strong combat ability? Two people working together, one observing the weakness of the foulness and suppressing it, and the other facing the barber directly? No. In terms of combat ability, there shouldn't be anyone in this batch of students who could compete with Abel. In the barber's lair, even a third-year student would have to spend a lot of effort to kill the barber. This student of the Crow Prophet must be hiding some secrets. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made the dangerous decision to go deep into the barber's lair. Am I too short-sighted? No wonder Commander Keeman specifically appointed this person as the vice-captain and chief of staff to assist Abel. This student deserves my careful observation. After the incident with the black hair, Kenny's opinion on Kenny changed. Kenny's opinion of Han Dong had changed greatly, and his attention to him had also increased. Inside the shabby house in the Rai district, Han Dong handed over a bunch of black hair that he had taken from a barber Charlie's body. The mission receiver, Bardo Verity, was surprised. She couldn't believe that this group of kids could complete the 3-star mission so quickly. Moreover, the 6 of them were not injured, nor were they affected by the heavy pollution. Bardo's eyes stopped at the mysterious apprentice who insisted on choosing the Stonewell mission, who was currently slightly weak and tired. "And Bardo, can you give the other 2 basic missions to us?" Abel asked. "Okay." Bardo didn't ask too much this time. She handed over the mission scrolls for Strange, Apple Tree and Disordered Scarecrow. "After you complete the 3 missions I've provided, you can come back to receive your rewards. I believe that the vice captain of your team has already seen that the Rye District mission that I'm in charge of has a certain connection with each other. Combining the 3 clues together, you should be able to deduce a secret path to explore the Stewart Manor." "Okay." The group of people left the shabby wooden house. Abel asked with concern, "Nicholas, do you want to go back to the residential area and rest for a while? We'll first explore the surface of these 2 basic missions. Once you've rested enough, you can meet up with us. At that time, we'll deal with them together. In any case, our progress should be the fastest among all the teams. We have enough time." Han Dong waved his hand and refused. "No need. I'm just a little tired. I'll be fine after a short rest during the investigation. I believe that we should make good use of our time in the early stages of the group training. The third-year teams are also progressing quite well. According to my observations, there are at least 3 other teams that have completed their first mission like us. This is especially true for the basic missions phase, due to the limited number of missions provided by the NPCs. If we don't obtain enough mission information, we won't be able to proceed to the next step of the exploration. Following this, we'll arrange it like this. Captain, you, Demps and Student Dahl will form a team. You'll be in charge of investigating the issue of the scarecrows in the Rye District. I reckon that the scarecrows' movements are related to the secret hidden in the soil. Student Demps should be able to quickly find the problem. Mia and Student Wunli will be in charge of finding the apple tree. This sort of search mission will allow me to have enough time to rest during the search. The 2 cute female students are all yours. Isn't that a little unfair?" Abel deliberately joked. "Haha." Han Dong gave an awkward laugh. He didn't have any selfish motives and was only distributing them according to their compatibility with the mission. "I'm just joking. We'll do as you say. You have to take good care of the 2 girls. If you need any help, feel free to contact me. We'll strive to complete all the missions in the Rye District by today." Chapter 204. Actually, Han Dong alone was more than enough to handle the apple tree mission. After all, Han Dong alone was a small team. The so-called equal distribution was just to cover up their own specialness. Besides, Han Dong was also curious about Wunli's special constitution. If he could find out some of Wunli's characteristics in advance, it would be easier for him to arrange his next actions. If Wunli was really special enough, he might be able to rely on Wunli's characteristics to turn the situation around when they encounter some dangerous situations later in the group training. Just as the teams were completed, Mia hurriedly stuck close to him, as if she was afraid that someone would snatch Han Dong away. Wunli stood at the side, holding the mission scroll in her hand, looking at it without any clues. "Vice Captain Mia, hello. How do we start with the apple tree mission? The mission description doesn't seem to mention anything about it. The Stewart Manor occupies such a large area, how are the 3 of us going to find it?" The so-called apple tree itself is a clue. The manor has been abandoned for a long time, there isn't even a decent tree. An apple tree bearing fruit like this should be very conspicuous. The 3 of us will split up and search around the town, we should be able to find it quickly. Once we find it, we'll meet up immediately, don't pick the apple without permission. Okay. Wenli had a serious look on her face as she put on her goggles and embarked on her solo search. However, Mia, who was in the same team, had no intention of separating from Han Dong. Instead, she revealed a strange expression as she stared at the blacksmith. Wenli, in this post-apocalyptic world, there's actually such a silly girl. However, she has such a unique constitution, it's really funny. Funny? At least in terms of acting, Miss Wenli is much better than you. Mia opened her eyes wide, her face full of surprise. Ah, she's pretending? I'm just guessing, I haven't seen any traces of Miss Wenli's disguise. But as you said, in this post-apocalyptic world, it's very difficult for such a character to exist. Miss Wenli is definitely not as simple as she looks. I don't believe it, she's just a silly girl. Let's focus on the mission in front of us first. The random apple tree might be spotted by the other teams. If there's something wrong with the apple tree itself, it might even be destroyed by the other teams. By then, the mission in our hands would be wasted. Mia, you're in charge of searching the southwest area. Report to me immediately once you find anything. I know. By the way, don't you want to know about the chaos item? There's no hurry. We'll talk about it in detail when we return to our residence tonight. At night? Okay. Mia seemed to have thought of a more bad idea. She waved her hand and said goodbye to Han Dong. As for Han Dong, he wasn't in a hurry to find the apple tree. Instead, he found a deserted alley in the town. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Han Dong was already standing in the prison. The second prison cell. A speckled tentacle was connected to the back of Togu's head. It was repairing the injuries Togu had suffered during the battle and helping him recover his physical strength. His broken thigh had been reattached, and most of the wounds had healed. It had to be said that the medical system attached to the prison was quite good. However, it took a full half an hour to recover from the injury. It wasn't suitable for use in battle. If possible, when the upper limit of the load is increased and the head is upgraded again to expand the third prison. I can try to accommodate a medical staff to provide medical assistance during the battle so that Togu and Miss Chun Li can exert their full strength. Also, if I'm injured, I can use it. When he thought of this, the bandaged nurse in Silent Hill and some terrifying monsters that originated from the doctor's image flashed through Han Dong's mind. Han Dong didn't feel the slightest discomfort with these images. When he thought of being able to accommodate more monsters, Han Dong became even more excited. After Han Dong greeted the two shelters, he turned around and went to the laboratory. Can you test this item? Following Han Dong's question, the AI in the laboratory immediately responded, Please place the item on the detection table. Okay. Han Dong thought that this detection table could only detect living things. He didn't expect it to work on inanimate objects as well. After a while, a silver scissors report from a Charlie the barber was printed on the side of the detection table. Black hair scissors. Type. Evil madness equipment. When this equipment attacks, it will pollute the target to a certain extent, stacking crazy point. The holder will also be affected. Origin. Barber a Charlie Wilson, personalized evil life, obtained by stripping the heart, low probability of dropping, quality. Normal effect. Gives the holder the ability of cutting damage and low-level hair control, cutting damage. When attacking, there is a certain probability of cutting the target, causing bleeding or organ cutting. There is also a small probability of penetrating the enemy's armor. Low-level hair control. The holder can control his own hair. Description. Please be sure to fix your hair regularly. This thing, Han Dong didn't think it was suitable for him to use it. After all, the size of the scissors was small, plus the unique cutting attack. It was very uncomfortable to use. In addition, Han Dong's hair wasn't very long, so it wasn't very useful. When he got the report, Han Dong thought of a person. Creak. He pushed open the door of the laboratory. Han Dong came to the first prison. Chun Li habitually stood facing the corner. When she sensed the arrival of her master, she slowly turned her head. Through the gap of the black hair in front of her, she stared at Han Dong with an evil eye. It seemed that because Han Dong didn't let her do it, she was a little unhappy. "Miss Chinli, do you think this thing is convenient for you?" Through the gap between the bars of the cell, the silver scissors were gently thrown into the cell by Han Dong. Snap! The moment Chinli grabbed the scissors, the evil aura suddenly increased, and the black hair in front of her rose automatically, revealing Chin Li's delicate and somewhat terrifying face. "Mr. Han Dong, this is the scissors of the barber just now? Is it useful?" "It's useful. It can establish a connection with the evil core in my body and—" Chun-Li summoned the original kitchen knife in her body. When the kitchen knife and the silver scissors were close, an incredible scene happened. The two were fusing. No, it should be a one-sided fusion. The scissors were slowly fusing with the kitchen knife. Soon, only the original kitchen knife was left in Chun-Li's hand. However, the blade of the kitchen knife had an additional silver glow, and it seemed to have become sharper and more cutting power. At the same time, the kitchen knife seemed to be able to drive the black hair to a certain extent and attack together. Weapon assimilation. Han Dong's face was filled with shock. "Thank you, Mr. Han Dong. You're welcome. If there is evil in the apple tree task later, I'll let you practice." Okay. Chapter 205. The origin kitchen knife in Chin Li's body can actually absorb chaos weapons? I didn't expect to learn of a method to enhance Miss Chin Li's ability. Speaking of which, this kind of tool that is similar to a destiny equipment should be worth a lot of money. This method is a bit expensive. Next, let's look for the apple tree. When Han Dong returned to the manor, he did not explore the outer area. Instead, he walked through the inner area of the town. The apple tree mentioned in the mission scroll could randomly appear in any area of the town. Naturally, it could also appear inside the town. In addition, Han Dong walked in the town and wanted to observe the progress of the other night teams. He wanted to consider whether his team should speed up or slow down. The third-year team's completion speed is not slower than ours. There are already many teams that have completed a basic mission, and they also know that the number of basic missions provided is limited. They must complete as many missions as possible in the early stage. Teams came and went as they passed through the street. As luck would have it, just as Han Dong walked to an intersection, there were two familiar teams approaching from different directions. The first team to arrive was the third-year team that came to trouble him because of the residence issue. But when they met Han Dong this time, their attitude had a clear change. After Han Dong's expression detection, he was not worried that this group of people would target him. Johnny, the human tank, arrived. He was wearing a super heavy armor, and every step he took left a deep footprint on the ground. Compared to the angry expression he had when he was forced to retreat last time, this time Johnny had a kind smile on his face. "I didn't expect to meet Junior here. Strange, Junior, why are you acting alone?" "We've accepted a search mission. I wonder if Captain Johnny has found an apple tree?" "Apple tree? I didn't find that. Junior, why don't you leave us a way to contact you? Once we find a suspected apple tree, we will immediately contact you. How about it?" "Okay." While exchanging the clockwork code with this senior, Han Dong's gaze swept across the other members of the team. Two long-range attackers, a medic and an auxiliary combat member. The most powerful one should be this ranger, right? Han Dong's gaze landed on a ranger who was wearing a cloak and a hood. The parrot cage hanging on his waist was also very interesting. As if sensing Han Dong's gaze, Michelle immediately turned her head away, afraid that Han Dong would see her face under the hood. When she tilted her head, a furry ear on the side of her head was slightly exposed. At this time, another team approached from the side. They were Han Dong's good friend, Cass Maldini, and company. "Friend Alan, you know Senior Johnny?" Cass wasn't sure at first since a large part of Han Dong's body was blocked by Johnny's huge body. When he got closer, he realized that it was really Han Dong. The short Lin and Sophia, who was holding a magic staff, also greeted Han Dong with a smile. Well, I guess you can say that I know him. Cass, do you know each other? Johnny, who had just finished the code exchange, was also surprised as he tilted his head to look at the blonde and handsome sophomore. Cass Maldini was quite famous among the Crusaders, and they had met each other many times. Cass immediately showed his close friendship with Han Dong and praised him excitedly. That's right. Friend Alan is the top genius of the Mystery Academy. We passed the Journey of Destiny because of Brother Alan. I didn't expect you to know him too. Johnny hurriedly put a heavy arm on Han Dong's shoulder. That's right. I can naturally recognize such an outstanding talent at a glance, so I especially left a way to contact him. Johnny, who noticed the awkward atmosphere, pretended to be serious and then acted like he was pressed for time. Alright. The number of basic missions is limited, so we shouldn't waste time in the early stages. Junior, we'll contact you immediately once we find the apple tree. Thank you, Senior Johnny. Just like that, Johnny immediately led his team away. When the ranger in the team, Michelle, walked past Han Dong, she couldn't help but glance at this special junior. She observed carefully with the help of the eye of the beast. She could sense an indescribable hidden danger from Han Dong. She broke out in a cold sweat and left quickly. Apple tree? The mission in Alan's hands? Yes, an apple tree that randomly appeared in the town. Did you find it, Cass? At this point, Cass's expression changed greatly. Come with me. I know where it is. Bring me there. Cass immediately started running, as if the matter was urgent. They arrived at a building near the edge of the town. It was the residence that Cass and the others occupied. It's in the basement. After we occupied this house, Sophia said there was a polluted aura coming from the basement door. We went down to take a look and found a strange apple tree growing in the basement. Considering the potential danger, we didn't deal with it for the time being. I'll take a look. When Han Dong stepped into the residence chosen by Cass and the others, he saw a light gray aura coming out from the crack of the basement door. There was even a thin layer of evil aura covering the floor of the building. It's indeed down there. Han Dong suddenly turned around and said, Cass, this should be your second time participating in the training, right? The Knights should have higher requirements for you than for us. The early stage of the basic mission is very important. You guys should hurry up and complete the mission in your hands. The apple tree is my mission, I'll take care of it. Thank you. Indeed, the basic mission is limited. By the way, Brother Alan, don't you need to call your teammates over? I'll be fine by myself. Cass laughed awkwardly. He naturally knew that Han Dong could handle it alone. Okay. I'll leave the apple tree below to you. We'll meet again at school. Yes, hurry up. Han Dong's unexpected encounter with his good friend had given him such an important piece of information. Han Dong was the only one left in the building filled with evil aura. Han Dong closed and locked the windows to avoid being disturbed by others while dealing with that apple tree. Creak, when he opened the basement door. The pollution level rose sharply, but for Han Dong, he only felt a little cooler. He walked down the stairs filled with a gloomy aura. In the spacious basement, a twisted apple tree grew in the center, reaching the ceiling. It had a thick tree trunk that was similar to a pear shape. Drip, drip, drip. A dark green viscous liquid was seeping out from the bark. At the same time, there was a hole at the bottom of the tree trunk, the size of a dog's hole. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of an iron chain came from his back. It wasn't Togu's iron chain. It seemed like there really was a dog in the tree hole. Chapter 206. Eye-opening. When Little Magic Eye was fully opened, through the darkness of the tree hole, he saw an evil life form residing in the tree hole. At the same time, the thing in the hole seemed to sense that someone was watching it. Clang! Clang! A pair of red shoes stepped out of the tree hole first. Immediately after, a blonde lowly in a floral dress slowly crawled out of the tree hole with a red apple in her hand. A rusty iron chain was tightly wrapped around her neck. Adorable big eyes stared at Han Dong, and a lowly voice that even straight men couldn't resist came from her throat. "Little brother, save me. I've been chained here for a long time." Han Dong looked indifferent. "Why are you chained down here?" "Because my mother always thought that I would cause trouble for her, so she specially made a tree house for me under the apple tree. Later, she was worried that I would run around, so she used a very long iron chain to tie me inside." "Where's your mother?" "I don't know. She used to come to see me and make delicious apple pies for me. Until one day, she didn't come anymore." Han Dong asked, "Oh? Is that so? Then who are the bodies piled up in your apple tree house? One of them should be your mother, right?" As soon as Han Dong asked this question, the old man's expression changed. The originally delicate and pitiful little girl immediately changed her expression and revealed an evil smile. The apple in her hands immediately rotted, and a large number of maggots drilled out from inside. Soon, it turned into a pool of stinky sewage and scattered on the ground. "Brother, your eyes seem to be very special. I don't want to play with you anymore. It's so boring." The little girl crawled back into the tree hole and hid. At the same time, all the apples on the apple tree turned into sewage. Not a single intact apple could be used to submit the mission. This also meant that he had to go deep into the tree hole. The real apple might be inside this evil creature's body. It might even be the evil creature's heart. In fact, he could use Toga's lava ability to burn the entire tree and force the little girl out. But considering that this was the residence of Cass and the others, Han Dong still intended to solve it in a slightly more peaceful way. Therefore, Han Dong took the initiative to bend down and crawl into the tree hole. The tree hole extended downwards, connecting to an underground space of about 20 square meters. It was a unique bedroom belonging to this little girl. Its decoration style was based on the children's room, with a dark and grotesque style. Just as Han Dong had mentioned, there were many nourished corpses hanging on the walls of the dormitory. The roots of the apple tree that extended down from the top were connected to these corpses and absorbed the protein and nutrients, so that the apple tree could continue to survive in this dead manner. "Welcome to my room." The little girl who lived in the treehouse also revealed her true form. She transformed into a tall and slender Western woman, but her limbs were twice the length of an ordinary person's, and there were a large number of twisted roots growing from the tips of her fingers. She could use the method of entanglement with the sharp thorns on the surface of plants to pierce into the epidermis of living creatures and absorb their nutrients. Entering someone else's territory without any precautions, "Big brother, you're really interesting." With that, the woman waved her hand. Swish! The strong roots that grew from the apple tree were pulled by her and suddenly wrapped around Han Dong's body. For a moment, Han Dong's limbs were tightly bound, and his entire body was suspended in the air with his arms and legs spread out. Because of a surprise attack, an item in Han Dong's pocket fell to the ground. "What?" Out of curiosity, the woman picked up the fallen item through the slender roots that grew from the tip of her fingers. A tuft of black hair. That's right, when he submitted the mission, hair in the well. He had not used up all of the barber's hair collected. There was still a small tuft of hair in Han Dong's pocket. When she saw such hair, the evil woman exclaimed loudly, "What's your relationship with Lord Barber Charlie? Why do you have this lord's hair on you?" Han Dong, who was bound in the air, replied with a leisurely expression, "Lord? Is Charlie's status very high here?" "Of course, Lord Charlie Wilson is the personal barber of the feudal lord and has been listed as an important cadre of the family. Tell me, what's your relationship with Lord Charlie?" "This. Why don't you guess? Let's make you into a nutrient donor, first and then slowly ask." The woman did not seem to be very patient. She immediately stretched out her 10 fingers and pointed the twisted thorny roots straight at Han Dong's body. Just as the thorns were about to touch the surface of his body, whoosh! A silver light flashed. The soft finger vines were cut off by a sharp weapon. Bursts of dark evil aura constantly overflowed from Han Dong's back. Han Dong said lightly, "I didn't expect Charlie to have such a high status in your manor. I thought he was just an ordinary hairdresser. Unfortunately, it happened so suddenly that I could only get rid of him quickly. Otherwise, I could try to get some secret information about the manor from him." You killed Lord Charlie." "Yeah." At the same time Han Dong nodded, an arm holding a kitchen knife folded and stretched out from his back. Immediately after, a woman in red crawled out. Barefoot on the ground, she stared at the other party with a terrifying gaze. In terms of horror, it seemed that Miss Chunli was better. The relationship between the host and the guest was completely reversed. Miss Chunli tried to keep him alive. Oh, just as Chunli was about to fight with the kitchen knife. The plague in Han Dong's body spread out and quickly corroded the roots that wrapped around him. He did not pay attention to the battle at all. Han Dong began to search for some clues that might be useful in this treehouse. About 20 minutes passed. The wooden door of this residence opened again. Han Dong, holding a red apple, walked out from the inside and whispered to the woman in red hidden in the shadows behind him. "Are you satisfied? It's not enough. I want more next time. Well, when the time is right, I will let you out. You go back and rest first, don't let others find out." Just like that, Han Dong sent a message to the 2 girls in the same team to gather together and return to the wheat field area to submit their mission. The blacksmith in the team, Wen Li, had a guilty expression on her face. She was completely unable to help in the previous 2 missions. This time, she did not even see the apple tree before it was over. On the other hand, Captain Abel and the other 2 had just finished dealing with the scarecrow incident. Just like that, with all the clues in the wheat field area in hand, they would bring them back to their residence and slowly compare the clues. They should be able to explore a path deep into the Stuart Manor. In addition, Han Dong had also obtained a piece of secret information that he could share with his team members. It was a diary from the girl under the apple tree that recorded some very interesting information. Chapter 207. Late at night. The first day of the training officially came to an end. In the center of the town where the manor was located, in the large stone building that once belonged to the mayor's office, about 14% of the Behemoth Knights were gathered here. They used the information provided by the Night Watchers and the town's mission NPCs to monitor the manor's situation with the flying animals controlled by the informants. They could control everything in the Stuart Manor and the movements of all the teams in real time. If there were any unexpected situations, they would be able to deal with it immediately. The person in charge of this training, the deputy commander, Ms. Sonam Hydra, also lived in the attic of this building. Dong dong dong, deputy commander, today's training information has been tabulated. The one in charge of delivering the documents was a knight with a strong body but a slightly young face. He was a new beast knight who had just entered the Behemoth Knights through the draft this year. "Come in." The door opened automatically. It was pitch black inside, as if the deputy commander had already fallen asleep. Hiss hiss hiss, several spotted snakes moved in the illuminated area. The knight could vaguely see that there was a slim human figure on the big bed, gently twisting like a snake. He quickly lowered his head and looked away. "Deputy Commander, where is the report sheet for you? Pass it to me." The voice surrounded the young knight's ears. He couldn't refuse and could only step forward into the room. In fact, the knight himself was also very clear about one thing. In the Behemoth Knights, everyone would rather deal with Commander Kai Meng than talk to the deputy commander. This time, He came upstairs to submit the documents only because the young knight lost a rock-paper-scissors game and was forced to come up. When he stepped into the room, at least a few hundred snake eyes stared at him in the dark, but this knight had also gone through life and death to reach this step. He kept calm and continued to walk to the end of the bed. All kinds of cold poisonous snakes swam under his feet. Some of the poisonous snakes even took the initiative to stick to his body. During this process, he couldn't do anything to repel or harm the poisonous snake. Otherwise, he would anger the deputy commander. As he gradually adapted to the darkness, when he approached the edge of the bed, the young knight saw the deputy commander Hydra and a big python sleeping on the bed. Deputy commander, report sheet? In the darkness, a slippery, cold, and scale-like snake tail slowly reached out from the bedding and coiled around the man's body. I don't really want to read the text. Just tell me some of the important information. The person immediately replied in standard British English, there are only 2 emergencies that have reached the yellow alert line. First, there was a lot of pollution leaking in the graveyard area, and the 3 night watchers were dealing with it. This caused the 5 basic missions related to the graveyard area to be temporarily suspended. It was estimated that it would take until tomorrow to completely fix it. Secondly, there was a large-scale monster attack in Gain Forest, and it affected the southwest part of the manor. 9 night watchers have gone to deal with it. Send 6 temporary night watchers from us to fill the vacancy. Alright. If there's nothing else, why don't you come to my bed and have a chat with me? I remember your name is Honmu. You did well in your elective this year. The Hydra asked as it used its snake tail to drag the new knight. Hoem was forced to kneel on the bed. When he came into contact with a cold and slippery body, he suddenly thought of something. Oh yeah, there's one more special thing. What is it? The team with the highest number of points today is not from the third-year team. Oh? This group of sophomores is quite capable. No. The team with the highest number of points is the eldest grandson of Commander Kaimon. It's the new team led by Abel Ryan who just entered the school this year. The only new team in this training. What? As soon as the words came out, Deputy Commander Hydra immediately controlled the poisonous snake in the room, turned on the kerosene lamp, and grabbed the summary report of the day. First place on the first day's ranking, completed 3 basic missions, and one of them was related to the underground mission of the manor? These guys can't be so capable. Abel is indeed a genius, but he can't reach this level. Is there a special newcomer in this group? This is Warren Nicholas, who was personally appointed by the commander. The vice-captain was personally appointed by the captain, and he seems to be the student of the Crow Prophet. Crow Prophet student? No wonder. Continue to pay attention to them. If they still rank first tomorrow, I want to see what special ability this deputy commander has. Okay. Then I go down, I want to sleep. Hearing this, the new knight breathed a sigh of relief and quickly left the room. Only Hydra was left lying on the big bed, gently stroking the big python beside her. Student of black and white, the snake's tongue came out from her mouth. A big shot like Hydra had already undergone a major transformation through the Destiny realm. She had even become a special existence that was above humans and snake. I want to see what's so special about the person chosen by Black and White, Newcomer's Special Team residents. Completing all 3 basic missions in the wheat field area in one day had exceeded the expected goal. In the room on the 2nd floor with a kerosene lamp, most of the members were gathered here, pasting the 3 mission reward information sheets on the wall for summary and analysis. Currently, an important clue had been speculated. There was also an underground space in the wheat field area. The entrance was located in the wheat field area, in a barn guarded by a night watcher. Ordinary knights were forbidden to enter this place. The relevant clues must be provided to the night watcher before the door of the barn would be opened. Captain Abel decided to carry out the barn plan tomorrow. However, most of the people gathered in this room did not include Han Dong. Han Dong stayed alone on the first floor. He was reading in a room assigned to him by the light, reading a special notebook found under the apple tree. If an ordinary team went to carry out the apple tree mission, they would definitely not find such a clue. When the tree vine evil filth living inside was eliminated, the apple tree would immediately wither, and the buried inner room would immediately collapse and disintegrate. Han Dong was in the situation where Chun-Li was in charge of the battle. Ignoring all distractions, he searched the treehouse and found the diary of a young girl in a locked drawer at the bottom of the bedside table. From it, he learned that the young girl was born in a small-town farmer's family. He also learned about the special management of the Stuart Manor more than 200 years ago. No wonder. This place became an evil place. Chapter 208. After all, it was only the diary of a young girl. The contents of the diary were mostly about the things that happened around the young girl. It could only reflect the situation of the Stuart Manor to a certain extent. However, the information provided by the diary made Han Dong rather satisfied. The diary also confirmed the authenticity of the young girl's words. She was indeed chained by her mother to a special treehouse under the apple tree. However, this treehouse was built for her by her parents. It wasn't a malicious restriction on her personal freedom. Instead, it was to protect her personal safety. The diary also mentioned this. This young girl was born with a deformity. Her external manifestations were cartilage and bark-like. Her arms were soft like strips of meat. No matter how much she bent, there would be no problem. Furthermore, there was a hard bark-like structure on the surface. Furthermore, deformities were very common in the small town covered by the manor. This young girl's neighbors were also in a similar situation. Through the little girl's self-talk in the diary, it could be inferred that farmers with deformities would be brought to the castle on the hill, never to have the opportunity to come out. Due to the cover of the treehouse, the young girl was not taken away. Naturally, she did not know the situation within the castle. There was one more thing. The manor encouraged more children. If they gave birth to more than 10 children, they would even be rewarded with resources. Furthermore, the entire manor was not in a good state. The little girl had seen with her own eyes the scene of her parents capturing the outsiders. The people of the Stuart Manor collectively referred to the outsiders as pigs. As long as the pigs were brought to the Lord, they would be able to exchange for a lot of food. Combining the 2 points of more children and capturing outsiders alive, it can be explained why there are so many corpses piled up in the underground area. As for the issue of congenital deformities, it should be due to marriage between close relatives. Clearly, the Lord had set up a mandatory rule, deliberately causing the manor to give birth to more deformities. As for the deformities that were brought to the castle on the hill, it should be related to some kind of evil ritual. If we want to unearth more secrets, we can only continue to delve deeper. Han Dong closed the diary and shared the additional information with his team members. As for the next step of the barn exploration, they would have a good night's sleep and deal with it tomorrow. Nicholas, can I take up a bit of your time? No problem. Faced with Captain Abel's invitation, Han Dong naturally could not refuse. There was only one reason why Abel was looking for him. After all, Abel couldn't figure out how Han Dong and the other mysterious apprentice managed to kill the high-level foulness while he and Demps were dealing with the black-haired creature in the barber room. Furthermore, it was Charlie the barber's lair down there. A hairdresser with the black hair cultivation technique would have accumulated an uncountable amount of black hair over the past 200 years. The danger level was self-evident. Why don't we go out for a walk? Anyway, there are a lot of night watchers in the town, so it won't be too dangerous. If we're lucky, we might find some strange things or clues, Han Dong suggested. I'll ask Demps to keep an eye on the situation in the basement. If there are any abnormalities, inform us immediately. The basement of the residence was also a risk entrance. It was necessary to pay attention to it and even send people to guard it at all times. A short while later, Abel changed into a hooded jacket that covered his face and met with Han Dong outside the door to begin their night rendezvous. While walking in the town with Abel, Han Dong observed. Abel's arms were swinging powerfully and his pace was steady. If one observed carefully, they would find that every time Abel took a step, the dust raised was almost the same. His breathing rhythm, arm swing rhythm, and pace rhythm were all the same. Not only could he maintain the minimum energy consumption, but he could also respond to various combat situations at any time. This time, the mission of Hare Underground was all thanks to Nicholas. Although I really want to know how you did it, everyone has their own secrets. The more powerful you are, the more likely our team will get an excellent evaluation. Abel said very tactfully. Yes, I have some special skills to deal with polluted life. Han Dong replied simply. What do you think of the camp this time? Our progress on the first day has far exceeded our expectations, and the following exploration path has been speculated. Isn't the speed a bit too fast? Is it possible to evolve into a dangerous situation that is not under our control? The speed is okay, let's keep it this way. We only need to focus on the underground area. As for the situation on the surface, leave it to the other night. I think that this time's group training may involve some secret. If we can go deep into the manor, we may be able to obtain some unexpected benefit. Han Dong only said this on the surface. In fact, in terms of fast exploration, Han Dong had a certain degree of selfishness. He wanted to absorb more of the essence of pollution, so as to be able to perfect the measurement of the little magic eye. In addition, he had just learned about the chaotic weapon today. If he could deal with more of the Stewart family's cadres, he might be able to obtain a similar item. He could choose to sell it for money or use it to increase Chin Li's strength. If I feel that there is a possibility of losing control, I will try to slow down our exploration speed. I hope you don't mind, Nicholas. The number of night watchmen in the town was relatively large. Basically, every street had 1 or 2 night watchmen patrolling back and forth. Sometimes, they would even jump on the roof to observe the surrounding situation. The night watchmen all wore black hooded cloaks and held a kerosene lamp in one hand. The lamp light could faintly reflect their facial features. Han Dong was quite clear about this point. While the two chatted about some school matters, they had unknowingly passed through 5 Street. It was about time, when the two were about to return to the rented house to rest. Strange. This night watchman's appearance is exactly the same as the night watchman on the street where we live. Abel obviously did not observe this kind of detailed information. Moreover, the light could only faintly reflect the facial features. It was really difficult to distinguish. Abel, wait for a moment. Okay. Han Dong stood at the entrance of the street and carefully observed the night watchman, confirming that he only patrolled this street. In order to confirm that his observation was not wrong, Han Dong immediately sped up and returned to his residence. He found a night watchman here. The facial features were indeed the same. Of course, it was also possible that they were a pair of twin night. Han Dong tried to find the night watchman and explained the situation in detail. Under the hood, a strange smile appeared. This person immediately turned into a wisp of green smoke and disappeared, leaving only the night watchman's robe and lamp and a letter. Night Watchman Mission. Triggered. Note: the Night Watchman mission is not limited to small teams. It is limited to the person who triggered the mission and the training members within 2 meters of the person who triggered the mission. During the mission, you are not allowed to seek help from outsiders. Chapter 209. Night Watchman Mission? Han Dong had only heard that the night watchmen were mainly responsible for the safety during the training period, and under certain circumstances, such as collecting some specific clues or speculating some key information, They would take the initiative to find the team and give them some missions to understand the manor in depth. He did not expect it at all. During the night tour with Abel tonight, Han Dong was used to carefully observing the surroundings. He accidentally found 2 night watchmen with the same appearance and movement speed and triggered a special mission. It had to be said that the knights were very experienced in the design of the camp mission, which gave the participants a sense of immersion in a real investigation. "Nicholas, you are really something." Abel was so excited that the white hair on his head and his ears swayed slightly. "Let's go back to the residence first. This matter should not be seen by other teams." Han Dong quickly picked up the night watchman's clothes and lantern and returned to the room on the first floor of the residence with Abel. He locked the door and did not tell anyone about this matter. The letter was temporarily placed on the table. Abel started by talking about his understanding of the night watchman's mission. "I heard some of the night teachers of the Behemoth Knights talk about it. The night watchman mission was approved by the Parliament 12 years ago. It is a special mission mode that is officially implemented in the training. It can effectively increase the variability of the training and the selection of elite. The number of night watchman missions is very small and very well hidden. It is very difficult to detect and is also very difficult to trigger. More often than not, the night watchman mission that was set during a training session would not be completed even after the training session ended." "Is it similar to a hidden mission?" "Well, a hidden mission with high difficulty or an opportunity that can only be found by chance. I didn't expect that we would trigger it in such a way. After all, no one paid special attention to the appearance of the night watchmen, not to mention that their faces were covered by hoods and difficult to see in the little firelight." "Nicholas, how did you do it?" "I just habitually observe the details of the surrounding environment and keep my brain in an active state at all times. Just like you, Abel, always keep your body in a state of sub-relaxation to deal with any unexpected situation." "Amazing." Abel wasn't too sure about the details. The envelope was opened, and an exquisite black folded paper slid out. There was a string of special words written on the front of the paper. "Due to your unique insight, a special investigation mission will be entrusted to you and your companions, the Night Watchers." On the back of the paper was a detailed description of the mission. "Assist the Night Watcher, John Tester, in completing a night watch duty." Description: after finding John Turst, he will arrange for a night watch. Reward: Night Watchman Medal, probationary. Note: during the performance of night watchman duties, it is necessary to wear night watchman uniform. 2. Only with the approval of the night watchers could the corresponding reward be obtained. Otherwise, the mission would be considered a failure. John Turst. He should be the night watcher who looks exactly the same. Abel said in a low voice from the side, "Once you accept the night watch job, it may last for an entire night or even longer. Nicholas, you exhausted a lot of energy fighting against Barber Charlie today, and then you obtained the red apple. Why don't we consider it tomorrow night?" Han Dong hurriedly waved his hand to reject. "No, I'm quite energetic. If we can complete it tonight, I'll have a good sleep tomorrow morning. After all, our team has already completed 3 missions. It's fine to rest for half a day. Only our team can enter the barn." "Okay. By the way, what's the Night Watchman Medal? I've only heard about it from others." "The Night Watchman doesn't just exist during the training period. It's a secret organization in the Holy City that isn't disclosed to the public. Non-Knights don't even know about the existence of this group. I'm not too sure about the specifics." "The Night Watchman is a secret organization?" For a moment, Han Dong was curious. At the same time, he looked at the clothes he picked up. "There's only one Night Watchman uniform." Captain Abel decisively declined. "It's all thanks to you, Nicholas. Put it on. I'll go with you. If I'm not qualified for the mission, we'll talk about it later." "Okay." Han Dong put on the black coat, took the lantern, and found John Turst 5 streets away. After handing in the letter, Night Watchman John took off his hood, revealing a middle-aged man with short brown hair and stubble on his face. John frowned as he saw the familiar young man. Abel? Why are you here? In John's opinion, the person who could trigger this secret mission should be a third-year student with strong observation skills, not the beloved grandson of the captain. After all, the mission was too dangerous. Abel explained, actually, the person who discovered the mission was Nicholas. He noticed that you look exactly like another night watchman. John obviously didn't think highly of the freshman, but he was more worried about Abel's safety. I'll tell you directly. The mission that needs your help is very difficult and risky. It's not suitable for freshmen like you. I can apply to the vice captain to let you give up the mission, and you'll get 3 points as compensation. What if we insist on following you on your night watch duty? Han Dong was very interested in the group of night watchmen. Of course, he didn't want to give up such an opportunity. You're also first-year elites, so you should know your limits. Let me tell you about the night watchman you need help with. About 10 hours ago, a team was carrying out a related mission in the cemetery area, and the pollution index skyrocketed. It caused 2 trainee knights to fall into a state of deep pollution, and their lives are still in danger. Their skin even began to rot and deform. Several night watchmen are investigating the source of the pollution eruption in the cemetery and trying to block it. The night watchmen you're about to face are also directly related to the cemetery. You should know that the trainee knights who are older than you have no resistance at all. I don't need to tell you how dangerous it is. Sir John, please take us there. We're willing to fully assist Sir John in dealing with the cemetery. After Han Dong said that, Abel nodded. Hey, come with me. Abel, put on this coat. When we carry out the related work later, you must follow me closely. Once I think you're not up to the standard of assistance, I'll immediately reject your qualifications for the mission. John had a helpless look on his face. Of all the people, it had to be the captain's beloved grandson. If other trainee knights followed, it wouldn't matter if they died. Chapter 210. Graveyard. It was an independent area of the Stuart Manor, completely separated from the town. It was surrounded by a 5-meter-tall iron fence with dense spikes at the top to prevent outsiders from climbing over. The entire graveyard was about half the size of the town. There were many tombstones inside, and all the farmers who had contributed to the construction of the manor had the right to be buried here. The gate of the graveyard faced a 400-meter-long road that bordered the town. On both sides of the road, there were many wooden signs with the words "No Entry." At the back of the graveyard, there was a small road that led to the castle on the hill. Currently, the graveyard area was completely sealed off, and no night squad was allowed to enter. A few night watchers were in the deepest part of the graveyard, dealing with emergencies. As he approached the graveyard with the night watcher John, Han Dong could clearly see a layer of flowing white mist through the iron fence. It was spread over the graveyard, and the degree of pollution was self-evident. Even the night watchers had put on goggles. If you can't even resist the most basic pollution of the graveyard, you can leave. John reached out and pushed the graveyard gate, opening a gap that was just enough for him to squeeze in sideways, and entered first. Abel immediately activated a unique guardian mode of nocturnal animals. A green light flashed in Abel's eyes, which could greatly resist the aura that invaded his body. In addition to the protection provided by the goggles and the fate item Heartguard Stone, it could completely resist the erosion of the mist in the graveyard. Han Dong, on the other hand, only wore the bird mask. Seeing that the 2 young men were not abnormal, John sighed and pointed in a direction of the graveyard. Follow me. We are going to the tomb keeper's residence, in the graveyard, to the underground tomb, and to participate in the search and repair of the source of the pollution outbreak. If you are not qualified, or if you are infected with a moderate level of pollution, your current Guardian mission will be terminated. Okay. The three of them carried kerosene lamps and walked in the fog-covered graveyard, constantly vigilant of the surrounding situation. Han Dong secretly observed the situation in the graveyard through the eye. About 90% of the graves had traces of being dug up. Moreover, the soil should have been dug up from the inside. It seemed that the outstanding farmers who were once buried here had a chance to be reborn due to the arrival of the Dark Age. They climbed out of the grave and continued to serve the Great Lord. Besides, the graveyard was filled with many corpses, and because it was shrouded in darkness all year round, it would naturally give birth to some special things. Ghoul Lair definitely existed. In terms of controlling the plague, Han Dong might have reached the level of a 4-star, so suppressing such a ghoul was not a problem. After absorbing all the plague essence, the ghoul almost turned into a mummy, and a gentle twist ended its pathetic life. Han Dong then released the plague to devour the mummy, leaving no trace behind. The two's performance was perfect, and they eliminated the 2 ghouls that attacked them without making any noise. This made John, the night watchman, a little surprised. However, this level of threat could not be compared to what was below. It only proved that the 2 young people's abilities were not bad. John walked out from the shadows, lit the kerosene lamp, and continued to lead the way forward. As the cemetery was relatively large, they encountered a total of 3 waves of ghouls' descendants along the way, which were smoothly resolved by the 2. After a while, the stone room where the tomb keeper once lived appeared. They could go to the area of the underground tomb through the secret passage inside the room. Just as John stepped into the room, Han Dong followed closely behind. Tada! The red-haired, white-faced clown suddenly jumped out. It's a little dangerous down there. Don't die. As soon as the clown finished speaking, his body rapidly expanded and burst like a red balloon. This jump scare forced Han Dong to pause for a moment. This clown? What clown? Abel was curious. Nothing, let's go down. The tomb below is more dangerous, especially the concentration of pollution. Abel, if you have any means to resist the pollution, it's best to use them in advance. Got it. Chapter 211. The underground tomb was supported by a large number of circular pillars. The number of corpses piled up below was far more than Han Dong had imagined, far more than the black hair cultivation room under the stone well. The stone wall of the tomb was designed as a precise bookshelf structure with layers of spaced spaces, and densely packed skulls were placed on top of it. This kind of skull wall was a symbol of the underground tomb. It extended almost without limit, and the number was so large that Han Dong couldn't explain it. No matter how much we encourage reproduction, no matter how much we do to the tourists going to the manor, it's impossible to create so many skulls, right? If we can't figure out where such a large number of corpses came from, we may fall into unexpected danger in the later stages of the exploration of the manor. Let's try to find out the results from this night's work. The source of the large number of corpses may be directly related to this cemetery. The intensity of the pollution in the tomb was needless to say. In addition to the white fog between the ground, the skulls embedded between the walls would occasionally have dark green tentacles with suction cups drilled out of their eyes. Such a scene would cause visual pollution damage. Abel immediately put on a unique white fur coat. The night watchman John deliberately looked back. This white fur coat looked ordinary. In fact, it was made of the skin of a certain hybrid demon. After being purified by the church many times, it was a high-quality material. Later, through the cooperation of the senior tailors and stitchers in the Holy City, such a fur coat was made. It could greatly resist the pollution and at the same time, it could stimulate Abel's bestial nature. The value was needless to say. It was obviously given by Captain Kamon. However, what shocked John more was another person. It was the Crow youth who triggered the mission. Whether it was stepping into the cemetery or going deep into the tomb, this young man was only wearing a crow mask and was not affected at all throughout the process. At this moment, under the crow mask, there was a question. Knight John, the underground tomb should be an important part of the manor's underground system, right? You know about the underground system? John was a little surprised. This was the key to this training. It was possible to speculate that there was an underground system under the manor that was built by the great Lord Stuart with a huge amount of manpower and material resources. It was also an important place for the evil consequences. Han Dong nodded and replied, "Well, one of the basic missions we're carrying out today involves the underground area. Also, we've already contacted a family cadre. We can roughly infer that the entire manor corresponds to a complicated and enormous underground system." That is indeed the case, but I can't tell you the specifics. You'll need to explore on your own. Yes, he continued to go deeper. The structure of the catacombs was rather complicated, even comparable to a maze. There were many forks in the interior that led to different areas. However, the overall structure was the same. No matter where he went, he could not avoid the walls that were inlaid with skulls. However, Han Dong's observation of details allowed him to discover an anomaly. That was the slope problem. From the moment they entered the catacombs, they had been going down. The ground of the tomb had a slope of about 3 degrees, 5 degrees. Another strange thing was that Han Dong didn't find any signs of ghouls in the catacombs. Where will the night watch be carried out? Han Dong asked. A deeper place. 10 hours ago, a small team went deep into the catacombs to carry out the mission, find the skull. They accidentally opened a secret passage in the depths of the catacombs that led deeper. They thought that the skull they were looking for in the mission would be in a deeper place. In the process of going deeper, they triggered a dead point and caused a large amount of pollution to overflow. We still need to go further down? Under Knight John's guidance, they came to a sealed stone room in the cemetery. When he was moving a special skull, he had to move it. Rumble. A square coffin placed in the center opened by itself, revealing a flight of stairs covered in plaque. Waves of stench constantly overflowed. Next, we'll officially enter the night watch phase. I'll explain the basic requirements for you. Currently, we've detected more than one dead point with a high concentration of pollution erupting. Currently, there are 8 night watchers below to search for any missing spot. We'll also participate. During this time, we may disturb a large number of ghouls residing in the interior. We may even encounter some high-level mutants and leaders. The requirements for the night watch are 1. Assist in killing 30 ghouls, a leader or a mutant ghoul. 2. Provide a strong opinion on the search for dead points that leak pollution. The matter of killing ghouls will only count if you cause fatal damage to the ghouls. However, any ghouls killed by me will not be counted in the number of enemies you kill. It was needless to say how difficult it was. According to the division of strength, it was almost impossible for a new student to deal with an adult ghoul. Just like when Han Dong first met Cass, it took him a lot of effort to kill an adult ghoul. Although they were here to assist Knight John, the number of ghouls was still very large. However, ghouls were a group that relied on numbers to begin with. Once they were surrounded, Chown would not be able to take care of their safety. This was also why Knight John was so distressed when he found out that the person who initiated the mission was able. Going deep into such a large-scale ghoul lair, coupled with an unusually large amount of pollution leakage, the slightest carelessness could cost them their lives. Do you have any questions? No. If you don't have any questions, then follow me down. Remember, you must follow me closely. If some irresistible factor causes you to be separated from me, you will die down there. Put away the kerosene lamp and activate your night vision ability or put on night vision goggles. Ghouls are very sensitive to fire. After saying this, Knight John also revealed some of his abilities. Cheetah. As a member of the Behemoth Knight Regiment, John, who majored in control, was naturally related to cheetahs. Some leopard patterns and sharp claws appeared, and an invisible murderous intent was released. Let me remind you that the ghoul lair below has been investigated by our regiment of knights. After more than 200 years of development and the uniqueness of the cemetery, there are already signs of developing into a ghoul kingdom. Ghoul kingdom? Abel was shocked. A drop of cold sweat dripped from his forehead. At this moment, Han Dong suggested, "Abel, you must follow Knight John. I'll be in charge of the rear. Whether it's plague or pollution, I can adapt." Okay. Han Dong stayed at the back of the team. When they stepped down the stairs full of plague, it was time to go deep into the lair. Buzz. Han Dong's right arm trembled due to the resonance. Chapter 212. No matter what kind of modifications Han Dong's right arm underwent in the future, it was essentially a ghoul arm. Even if Han Dong had just killed a ghoul, there was no resonance or even homologous reaction when he came into contact with ordinary ghouls. When he stepped into the ghoul's lair, his right arm trembled slightly due to resonance. It indirectly meant that there might be a real ghoul or an individual that could establish a connection with ghouls. The degree of danger was self-evident. Camouflage enhancement. Han Dong strengthened the camouflage effect of the faceless skull on his right arm through subjective control, so as to let the resonance effect fade away, to avoid being targeted by the big thing below. If the king below brought ghouls to attack, even an official knight would be in a difficult battle, or even be swallowed by the corpse tide. The thing below is definitely not simple. It must be much stronger than the barber Charlie. Han Dong kept the plague domain open at all times. Being in such a fungal lair, Han Dong could absorb pathogenic fungi at any time to replenish his energy. At least the plague energy was inexhaustible. Thud when he stepped on the last step. Han Dong was a little stunned and couldn't help but mutter, "This lair is a bit different from what I imagined." Ghouls. This was a special individual that existed together with graveyard fungi. In Han Dong's view, they were a group of individuals that didn't have high intelligence. The corresponding lair should be a dirty cave full of fungi, with corpses and bones scattered everywhere. They lived in the cave like a group of wild beasts. However, the lair in front of Han Dong completely subverted his original idea. Rather than a lair, it was more like an underground space that was governed by rules. Countless ghouls were wrapped in an ellipsoid membrane and embedded in the stone wall full of plaque. They were in a special state of growth and dormancy. This was a pale pink, translucent membrane. On the surface of the membrane, there was an extremely tough fascia anadesma structure. It was expressed as muscle strips that covered the surface of the membrane to ensure that the ghouls that were dormant inside were not affected by the outside world. In addition, the inside of the capsule was also filled with a special solution, similar to a kind of life substance, culture fluid. When soaked in this solution, the pores on the skin would open up to the maximum and continuously absorb life essence. It could catalyze and shape the ghoul's body to the greatest extent, allowing it to grow into a strong and ferocious mature individual within a short period of time. Also, the tubes were arranged neatly at the top of the tunnel, and each tube corresponded to a ghoul. Sticking close to the wall, it extended from the top of the capsule. By connecting the back of the head to the spine of the ghoul and injecting a highly pathogenic fungal solution, the rapidly maturing ghouls would also possess a strong ability to infect the plague. It was a ghoul factory. Furthermore, the scale of this place was huge. The densely packed ghouls lined up on the wall through the membrane, and there was no end in sight. It was as if he was nurturing an army. Where did such a large number of ghouls come from? Could it be that there's a mother? Han Dong suddenly recalled that when the witch was teaching about the low-level life forms outside the city, she had mentioned a special entity, mother. It's a mother with a strong reproductive ability. The mother usually occupies a sealed area, such as an abandoned village or an underground cave. They reproduce wantonly inside and conceal the area through a kind of fog. Most of the mothers have reached the level of the hybrid demon. Ordinary night training will not encounter them. John, the night watchman, hurriedly said, "Don't think too much about the mother. You won't come into contact with it. The ghouls wrapped in the capsule are in an inactive state. As long as we don't destroy the capsule and tear off the conduit connected to the spine, they won't wake up no matter how loud we make. At present, we are carrying out the Night Watch mission. The purpose is to solve uncontrollable emergencies, check and block the pollution dead point. After we deal with the matters below, there will be subsequent apprentice night squads coming to the tomb area to carry out related missions. Therefore, under no special circumstances, you must not destroy the current area, including the ghouls in the capsule. What we need to deal with are the personnel wandering here. When you deal with them, you must be fast and accurate. Understood? Where do we go next?" John gave the choice of finding the dead points to the two rookies. "To the left." Han Dong gave the direction without hesitation. "What's the basis of your judgment?" 1. The pollution concentration on the left is slightly higher than on the right. 2. In the plague hose connected to the ghoul's spines, the source of the liquid mostly points to the left. 3. The slope problem. When going deep into the underground tomb, there is a small downward slope. It's the same here. The left slope is downward, and the right slope is upward. The pollution dead points are likely to exist in the deeper part. Han Dong had just arrived at the nest not long ago, but he gave 3 strong judgments in a row. This made John immediately look at the young man in a new light. "You can directly capture the pollution concentration? Well, suturing, together with the special eye Mr. Black and White gave me, allows me to see more things." "Black and White, not bad. Maybe you can really help me find the hidden dead points." For a moment, John threw away the prejudice that the 2 rookies might be troublesome, drag him down, and fall into danger, and began to take the current task seriously. According to Han Dong's careful observation, they advanced in the direction that he had determined. At the corner, a ghoul with 4 arms and strange runes drawn all over its body crawled out. When it discovered the intruders, the curse patterns on the ghoul's body immediately reflected a black light, and black smoke even leaked out from its claws. Its mobility was completely different from that of ordinary ghouls, and it immediately pounced on the group. Its muscular arms stretched out, and the cursed claws were about to tear the intruders in front of it apart. An incredible scene appeared. With the naked eye, one could only see a flash of a shadow like a cheetah. The ghoul that was pouncing in the air was instantly cut by more than 20 deep slashes, with a serious bleeding effect. Green body fluid sputtered on the ground and the surrounding surface of the capsule. In an instant. Amazing! Han Dong's little magic eye saw what happened in an instant. When the ghoul pounced on John, the night watchman, its cheetah-like body instantly burst out a series of rapid attacks. At the same time, 6 claw shadows appeared in the air and instantly cut the ghoul's vital parts, including the heart, trachea, skull, and the important connecting tendons of the limbs. "Next time, you have to be faster. Otherwise, even if you can help me find the dead points, I won't let you pass. It's not as easy as you think to become a night watchman." Chapter 213. Han Dong had seen the standard of an official knight before. The Holy Knights, Wino Celeste. Celeste could easily kill such a ghoul when her flail was covered with holy fire. However, Celeste's position was a team support type, with both offense and defense. Due to their many collaborations, Han Dong had even simulated Knight Wino's battle movements when facing such a cursed giant ghoul in his mind. She would perform a powerful 2-hit combo. Reflected shield and heavy flail would directly kill the target. But if that was the case, Han Dong could think of a way to take a shot during the process of reflected shield and get a kill. But the knight he followed this time was John, the night watchman. His position was a close combat assassin. There was no time to react, and he would directly kill the target. If Han Dong didn't have the support of Little Magic Eye, it would be impossible for him to see the details of the movements. This Knight John should be an upper-middle level knight in the Behemoth Knight. If he wanted to snatch the head of such an assassin, he would have to put in some effort. Abel also captured John's movements with his beast vision, and he made a thoughtful expression: turn left. Go straight. Turn left. The maze-like route was designed. Both sides of the road were closely lined with capsules. There was no gap and the space was 100%. Every time they reached a fork in the road, Han Dong would point out the direction. During the journey, Han Dong also encountered some problems. For example, when passing by an empty capsule that originally had nothing in it, a red and white clown suddenly appeared in the capsule. It waved and greeted, letting out a strange laughter that only Han Dong could hear. In addition, when they encountered ghoul patrols later, Han Dong also used all his skills. Little Magic Eye plus Plague Control. It directly made the ghoul a few meters away lose its mind and stay in place to avoid being killed by Knight John. It was also at the moment when Han Dong used Little Magic Eye. The white gas on the surface of Abel's body reflected the appearance of a wolf head. His speed increased and he took the initiative to meet it. Together with Han Dong's visual interference, they killed the ghoul in a short period of time. Then, they dug out the ghoul's heart and crushed it. In addition, Han Dong publicly took out a syringe to extract cell essence for future use, using the excuse of mysticism experiments. Han Dong had also asked Mr. Black and White about this. Mr. Black said that it was normal to do experiments, as long as Han Dong acted natural and did not arouse suspicion. Just like that, the group went deeper and deeper. The size of the nest was much larger than Han Dong had imagined. It was not just a single-level structure. Most of the time, they turned left. In addition to the downward slope of the passageway, there was also a certain curvature. In other words, it was a kind of spiral staircase that led to the underground area. Han Dong had even constructed the entire structure of the ghoul factory in his mind based on the path he had taken. It was a rather large underground system with a hierarchical management structure that could produce tens of thousands of ghouls every year. It was hard to imagine that a great lord that had once been at the level of a first-class great lord could create such an underground area. 13. A green-skinned ghoul fell to the ground, and Abel could not help but reach out to wipe the sweat off his head. Abel had also used up a lot of stamina after such continuous high-intensity outbursts. However, he had not killed half of the ghouls yet. Moreover, the deeper they went, the more ghoul patrols there were. Sometimes, they could not walk directly in the direction that Han Dong had determined. It was necessary to deliberately take a detour. Here, under Han Dong's lead, they came to a dead end. Just by standing at the fork, they could feel that the pollution coefficient had skyrocketed, forcing Abel to take the mind-calming potion made by Mia to increase their pollution resistance. At the end of the dead end, the pollution was like liquid that constantly overflowed from the cracks in the wall. Some dark green tentacles of different sizes swayed in the air. Even the ghouls in the capsules around them were more or less mutated. Well done. According to the test results, there are only 2 pollution dead points left in the nest. I didn't expect one of them to be down here. When the knights set up the camp in the early days, we did not find these dead points below. They should have appeared recently. The next task of blocking them will be left to me. You just need to wait quietly at the side. John, the night watchman, gave Han Dong a look of appreciation. At the same time, he also believed in a principle. When the night investigation team left the city, they must bring along a mysterious person. In terms of observation and perception, the position of a mysterious scholar was irreplaceable. The night watchman took off his coat. Knight John touched a special metal cube on his waist. Pieces of precise hexagonal black metal armor pieces stuck to John's body, growing and spreading. They covered all the important areas of the body and perfectly fit the outline of the body, adapting to any movement. Epic level, full body coverage type of Destiny equipment. This set of Black Origin armor was equipment that John had exchanged for a large amount of points in the Destiny realm a few months ago. It was completely capable of resisting pollution and could deal with all kinds of battles. John swooped to the dead point and used some special night watchman tools to deal with the corrosion of the tentacles. Then, he used the wall to block and erase the dead point. This process naturally took a certain amount of time. Abel watched the process carefully, wanting to see the means of sealing the dead point, just in case. In addition, Abel also longed to have such an adaptive armor to cooperate with his strength of 100 beasts. This Knight John is really powerful. He should be considered an old figure in the Knight Regiment. If he is determined to steal the monster from us, it will be impossible to achieve the goal of killing the monster. At this moment, due to the theoretical observation range of Little Magic Eye up to 360 degrees, Han Dong, who was standing at the fork, suddenly turned his head and looked at the passage behind him. He just caught a glimpse of a black shadow flashing by. Ghoul. The black shadow seems to be small. Is it a special species? To complete this Night Watchman mission, we must kill a mutated ghoul. Due to the high pollution concentration in the current area, Han Dong did not call Abel, who was carefully watching the process of sealing the dead point. He went to the place where the black shadow flashed by alone. It took a full 5 minutes. The pollution dead point was completely sealed, and the pollution index in the lair area decreased a lot. The rest only needed to be dealt with by the other night watchman. This student of the Raven Prophet played a big part in finding the dead point so quickly. John was going to take the two young people to move around a little bit. Once they killed enough ghouls, he would let them pass the night watchman mission. But where did that student Nicholas go? Strange, I don't know when he left. Abel was confused. Before the dead point was sealed, the passage was filled with a lot of pollution. Abel had to concentrate all his mind to resist, and he was carefully watching the dead point area, so he did not notice the movement of Han Dong behind him. Hurry up and find him. If you get lost here, even an elite student of the 3rd year will have a hard time surviving. After a period of cooperation, Knight John completely recognized Han Dong. This student of the Raven Prophet had a lot of potential. Out of consideration of the talent, John wanted to protect this student. Unfortunately, Han Dong had been lured into the depths of the lair. Chapter 214. He switched to Han Dong's perspective. Since he had captured the strange shadow, he chose to go deeper into the passage in the opposite direction while waiting to investigate the situation of the shadow. Dead end. Strange. The shadow disappeared here. Theoretically, this should be a fork in the road, right? The black shadow was moving to the right. Is it a ghost, or is there a hidden mechanism here? Little Magic Eye looked at the capsule on the right. No ghouls were cultivated. The life substance solution that filled the capsule was very special and could not be directly seen through. If there was a hidden mechanism, it was more likely to be hidden behind the capsule. After all, Han Dong could not see any hidden compartments in the area that he could see. Han Dong did not hesitate to reach out and touch the back of the slippery capsule. It felt like reaching out and touching the internal organs of animals in a biological laboratory. It was warm, slippery, and had a touch of life that was difficult to express in words. About the middle of the inner side of the capsule, he touched a ball of flesh about the size of a tennis ball. To confirm the uniqueness of the ball of flesh, Han Dong touched the other capsules around and found that such a ball of flesh only existed behind the capsule just now. It seemed that there was really a button. The next problem to deal with was how to trigger the switch. Squeezing and pinching were useless. Could it be that I need to verify my identity? Han Dong tried to activate the characteristics of the ghoul arm. When he reached out and pinched the ball of flesh again, squeak squeak squeak, the sound of flesh separating. The life substance fluid in the capsule was emptied by the hose. The surface of the capsule split open on its own, revealing a fleshy passage that only allowed one person to pass through. It was similar to the worm passage that Han Dong had once walked through in the sewer of Dry Town, except that it was narrower. This is? Han Dong combined the large amount of information collected in his brain and made a very risky decision. Without notifying Abel and John of the Night Watchman, they would not be able to do so. Full disguise, since Han Dong could disguise as a human, he could also disguise as a ghoul according to the characteristics of his right arm. The left and right shoulder blades protruded from the back, and the outline of the back became extra obvious. After the disguise was completed, Han Dong quickly crawled into the hidden passage. It wasn't easy for him to get to the ghoul lair at the bottom of the graveyard through this night vigil quest. If he only completed the night vigil quest, he felt that it would be a waste. With such a great opportunity in front of him, Han Dong wanted to take the opportunity to dig out more useful information. Since my right arm can complete the identity verification, there's a 90% chance that I won't be discovered if I'm fully disguised. This tunnel might lead us to the center of the ghoul factory. If we can see some of the secrets here, it will be of great help to our investigation. When the time came, he would find an opportunity to escape and meet up with Abel and the others. The only thing you need to pay attention to is concealment. While crawling out of the fleshy tunnel, Han Dong came to a particularly open area. There were no signs of the plague here, nor were there any ghoulish membranes on the walls. The walls were made of stone, and there was a torch placed every 3 meters for illumination. It should be known that ghouls didn't like light. To a certain extent, it meant that the main living beings here weren't ghouls, but another kind of life form. In the current area, the most eye-catching thing was the 4 glass devices filled with the plague stock solution. They stood in the open area and were connected to each other by thick rubber hoses. They were equipped with many manually controlled valves. At the same time, there were also a large number of humans gathered here. They were wearing dark green robes and had a unique symbol on their backs, withered arm shape. That's right. The light from the fire could reflect the facial features of the humans under their hood. They were the workers here. They were responsible for the production and collection of the plague stock solution, recording relevant information and data, and maintaining it regularly. This is the type of human outside the city that the witch said is most likely to encounter during this training. The heretics? A single heretic is not a threat, but a group of heretics is quite dangerous. Once they discover an intruder, they might perform a large-scale sacrifice and summon a terrifying existence. It doesn't seem good for me to move around in this area disguised as a ghoul. I'll change my identity. Han Dong stayed in the meat passage and gently knocked on the wall to make a noise to attract the attention of a heretic. When the heretic approached the meat passage and observed it, a terrifying eye suddenly flashed and looked at the heretic. Visual pollution. Then, a hand grabbed the heretic's collar and dragged him into the passage. After a while, a man wearing the same dark purple heretic uniform walked out. However, this time, it was Han Dong in disguise. This is perfect. Let's go deeper and take a look. Maybe we can find the source of the large number of ghoul larvae. He learned the heretic's posture. Han Dong crossed his arms in front of his chest and lowered his head slightly. He went around the plague area and continued to go deeper. He arrived at the core area of the ghoul lair. Han Dong was stunned by the scene that greeted his eyes. Han Dong's speculation was completely correct. Such a large number of ghoul larvae were not obtained through simple reproduction. There was a special reproduction channel. The core area was designed as a platform. On one side of the platform, there was an exit of the meat tube passage. Every once in a while, a ghoul larvae would slide out of the tube and land in the middle of the platform. In addition, a large number of heretics were in charge of delivering babies here. The heretics seemed to have a standard for newborn ghouls. For the larvae that met the standard, they would be sent to the capsule for catalytic cultivation. For those that did not meet the standard, they would be disposed of on the spot. According to Han Dong's observation, only 1 out of 10 would meet the standard. Such a scene stimulated Han Dong's senses. Han Dong knew half of the secret of the Stuart manner. This meat tube passage that can produce ghouls without limit most likely corresponds to the mother. The direction of the meat tube should lead to the ancient castle on the hill, where the great Lord of Stuart is. More or less, being able to obtain such important information can be considered a great harvest. Let's go back and gather with Abel and the others. Just as Han Dong turned to leave, a chief engineer in charge of all the work below appeared in front of Han Dong. His forehead was filled with syringes, catheters, and various metal coils. His brain was about 3 times the size of an ordinary person. He was wearing a white coat. The 2 legs of his lower body were almost in the form of tentacles and moved forward by wriggling. Why do you smell like Charlie? Chapter 2:15. Appearance, attire, and such a question. It was easy to deduce. The man who suddenly appeared in front of Han Dong with syringes and catheters inserted in his swollen brain was the person in charge of the ghoul factory, an important cadre member of the Stuart family. He was called Dr. Swelling. Just from the contamination overflowing from his brain and scalp, he was more difficult to deal with than Barber, Charlie. Moreover, the main problem here was not whether the doctor was strong or not. Instead, once Han Dong was exposed, then he would be greeted by tens of thousands of adult ghouls, all kinds of heathens who could sacrifice and self-destruct, and the advanced form of this heathen, inhuman. Even with the double cover of Togu and Chun-Li. Once the exit below was completely sealed, he would undoubtedly die. The next answer was extremely important. This doctor smelled Charlie's scent. In addition, Han Dong didn't understand the common language among heathens. The slightest problem with the words would be exposed. Since that was the case, it was better to beat him at his own game. I just saw a black shadow flash by the exit. When I immediately went to the exit to check, I found a few remnants of black hair. I'm not sure if the black hair belongs to Master Charlie, so I'm going to check around. Words accompanied by actions. Han Dong casually took out a handful of hair from the barber's body. He was trying to shift the focus from himself to Barber Charlie. His words and actions were very natural. After grabbing the swollen tuft of black hair, the doctor immediately revealed a ferocious expression. Due to his emotional agitation, some dense bubbles surged between the catheters inserted in his head. Charlie, this damn thing, came here to steal the hair culture medium again? The so-called hair culture medium was naturally an individual life form. Hearing the doctor's words, Han Dong also breathed a sigh of relief. The change of target was successful. Fortunately, there was a certain conflict between the barber and the doctor. Otherwise, it would be difficult to divert his attention. The doctor pulled the black hair and seemed to be planning to use some method to search for Charlie, who was lurking in the dark. He stared at the doctor who was squirming away. Taking this opportunity, Han Dong also prepared to quietly leave the core area of the factory. Just as Han Dong pretended to patrol and slowly approached the exit. Wait a minute, Dr. Swollen's voice sounded again. Han Dong's facial muscles twitched. He had no choice but to stop. Charlie, that cunning thing, seems to have escaped. The detector didn't find any foreign objects. You've done well, at least your observation skills are better than the others. Are you willing to accept a limb sacrifice? It can allow you to obtain greater power. Don't. Han Dong felt helpless. If he were to reply that he was unwilling or put it off, it would seem unnatural. The heretics were all crazy individuals who were willing to sacrifice their lives at any time. The opportunity to strengthen themselves through sacrifice was right in front of them, and the answer here could only be yes. Thank you, sir. Come with me. Dr. Swollen smiled wickedly. Through the dark green tentacles with suction cups on its lower body, it quickly moved forward and arrived at the opening of another fleshy passage in the core area. Han Dong could only follow and adapt to the situation. Through a warm and narrow fleshy passage, they entered a sealed circular stone chamber about 100 square meters in size. The regular distribution of deep crevices on the ground formed a sacrificial array. Han Dong stared at the structure of the array and the distribution of some strange words. It was similar to the sacrificial array in the book. Besides, Han Dong also noticed that there were some pieces of meat that had not been cleaned up in the stone room. It seemed that many heretics had failed in their sacrificial offerings. When the heretics, with a certain level of talent, were brought here for a partial sacrifice or a full-body sacrifice, the death rate was much higher than the success rate. The only good thing was, the sacrificial stone chamber was completely sealed. There was only Han Dong and Dr. Swollen here. Some things would be much easier to do. However, he could not kill him directly. If he could not kill him instantly, the news would spread and the entire ghoul factory would immediately lock onto Han Dong as the first target. What part do you want to sacrifice? Dr. Swollen asked. My arm. A wise choice. If the sacrifice is successful, your arm will obtain God's form. At that time, you will become my assistant and help me improve the manufacturing process of ghouls. Okay. Go to the center. According to Dr. Swollen's request, Han Dong half-knelt in the center of the sacrificial stone chamber, waiting for Dr. Swollen's order. Han Dong took a deep breath. In his mind, some information about the array of the I manuscript kept flashing. Han Dong had already come up with the best plan. Through his own understanding of the I manuscript, he would activate the sacrificial array and change the sacrificial target to forcefully sacrifice this swollen doctor. As long as the sacrifice was successful, even if the doctor did not die, he would be trapped for a long time. Since Han Dong did not directly make a move, the rioting ghouls would not be able to locate the target immediately. At that time, Han Dong only needed to continue pretending to be a heretic, and he could easily escape from the riot. The sacrifice began. Dr. Swollen came to a wall with a hole mechanism and extended his tentacles into the hole. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of stones turning. It seemed that something was connected. Gurgle, sticky liquid moving sound. Between the cracks on the stone wall of the stone chamber, wisps of dark green essence liquid flowed out and flowed into the cracks on the ground, slowly filling the array with such essence liquid. A strong smell of pollution spread in the air. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The activated array grew a mouth at the center of the array, and it spat out activated dark green tentacles from its mouth, swaying excitedly, ready to accept the sacrifice at any time. Okay. You just need to put down the arm that you want to sacrifice. Okay. In order to prevent the ghoul's right arm from being exposed during the sacrifice process, Han Dong was ready to activate the array with his left arm. In his mind, he had already filled in the method of controlling the array. Just as he stretched out his left arm, it was immediately wrapped by the tentacles at the bottom. It pulled hard, trying to drag Han Dong's left arm into the mouth of the array and sacrifice it. 3, 2, 1. The moment it was about to touch the mouth, and the moment Han Dong was about to control the array, something unexpected happened. Buzz, a burst of yellow light appeared on the back of Han Dong's left hand. Yellow seal? A mark of 3 twisted strips with the center as the origin and spread out, was reflected on the surface of the back of his hand. This yellow seal hadn't appeared for 2 months after the last time he asked the author, but now it appeared on its own. In an instant. Due to the effect of the yellow seal, the array was absorbed in reverse. The polluted energy in the entire sacrificial stone chamber was completely sucked out in an instant. Even a large part of the energy supply of the entire ghoul factory was sucked out. A large number of incubation capsules immediately lost the supply of plague essence and vitality. What did you do? The swollen doctor stared at the sacrificial stone chamber that was completely sucked dry with a fierce expression. Wriggling his lower body, ready to go forward and kill this heretic. The fog dispersed, and white twisted tentacles formed out of thin air. An invisible pressure came crashing down on him. The doctor's lower body went soft as if he had lost control and completely collapsed on the ground. In the doctor's eyes, a yellow-robed man from a different dimension slowly appeared. Under the hood there were all kinds of indescribable limbs, facial features, and starlight spots. One could even see a terrifying and unknown dark world. Chapter 216. Han Dong didn't expect that things would turn out like this. The yellow seal was imprinted on the back of his left hand. That was indeed true. But only when the mysterious yellow-robed man needed the author would he take the initiative to contact Han Dong, or when Han Dong took the initiative to activate the seal. At present, it was definitely not Han Dong who activated the seal. In other words, it was the mysterious yellow-robed man who appeared here. Obviously, he didn't come for the author. Through such a sacrificial array, reverse absorption sacrificial stone room, and even the entire ghoul factory's energy was drawn by more than half. That was why the mysterious yellow-robed man came here temporarily. You are? They were not at the same level at all. Dr. Swollen was essentially an inhuman who evolved from a heretic. He hadn't reached the level of the hybrid demon. This yellow-robed man was at a higher level than the hybrid demon. In the face of such an existence, Dr. Swollen couldn't even achieve the most basic life characteristic. The most primitive emotion of fear was drawn out by staring at such an indescribable scene. In addition to fear, it was difficult for Dr. Swollen to have a second emotion. He didn't give the doctor any chance to struggle at all. Under the yellow robe, there was something squirming slightly. Small white tentacles wrapped around the sleeves of the robe, forming a pure white arm. It was the size of an adult's arm, but the flesh was as white and soft as a baby's. When such a palm fell on the doctor's head, in an instant the doctor's consciousness was changed. In layman's terms, it was brainwashing. A yellow seal formed in the doctor's giant brain, and he was directly transformed into an absolute believer of the yellow-robed man. As for Han Dong, he was completely stunned and watched all of this quietly. The yellow-robed man summoned through the sacrificial array was still not the main body. Just like what he saw in the study, there was a circle of black outline around his body, as if it didn't belong to this dimension. It was just an incarnation that came for a period of time. The brainwashing was completed. Dr. Swollen looked pious and lowered his head slightly. Then, the yellow-robed man turned around and faced Han Dong. He didn't seem to like to talk. The last time they met, it was through writing on the bathroom mirror to convey information. This time, a pale yellow gas was ejected from the bottom of the hood. The gas automatically spread out in the air and printed a series of strange characters. Han Dong's little magic eye automatically interpreted these strange characters. This is a lair controlled by little Mo. If I ask it directly, it should obediently transfer this place to me. But I'm not asking for it for myself. I'm planning to let you take over this place. You have a small amount of ghoul attributes in your body, and at the same time, you have the aura of an old king. You, who have been living in the holy city for a long time, must consider the day when your secret is exposed and you are expelled. I will give this place to you as your first lair outside the city. According to the words you humans use, it should be home. You can use the yellow seal to directly control this low-level personnel. Once you've dealt with the deeper parts of the mother body, you can quietly take over this place. Senior, this... Han Dong was stunned. The fact that the mysterious yellow-robed man had shown himself to be considerate of Han Dong left Han Dong scratching his head. Han Dong never thought that he would encounter such a thing as a free lunch. The yellow-robed man must have his reasons for doing this. Under the hood, yellow gas was spat out again, and the relevant characters were reflected. The author you provided me last time, Aliette Bonus, is very good. She helped me to perfect the framework of the dragon world and fill in the gap. This is a small reward for you. Moreover, you are quite interesting. If you perform well enough in the future, I can also write a novel based on your character setting. It will be very interesting. Work hard, human. Thank you, senior. Han Dong said thank you verbally, but in his heart, he couldn't understand the thoughts of this high-level existence in the blink of an eye. The mysterious yellow-robed man, with the fog and all kinds of white tentacles that covered the stone room, disappeared in an instant. Everything returned to normal. Dr. Swollen asked respectfully, Lord Messenger in yellow, "Do you have any orders?" Han Dong was taken aback when he heard such a title. He immediately entered his role and gave his instructions. Continue to pretend to obey the orders of the Great Lord. Find a suitable reason to explain the sudden situation just now. After we deal with the Great Lord, I will assign you the relevant mission. Dr. Swollen quickly nodded. Yes. Also, the arrival of Lord Messenger in yellow just now caused a large amount of energy loss. Currently, the ghoul factory is operating at low capacity. The Great Lord will soon come here to check on the situation. Lord Messenger, please leave quickly. If the Great Lord discovers my relationship with you, there will be no way to disguise this matter. After saying that, a fleshy passage leading to the outer layer appeared in the stone room. Okay. Han Dong originally wanted to ask about the secret of the manor from this person, but he could only find another opportunity to ask next time. Take care, Lord Messenger. Alright. Give me a few ghoul teeth. Okay. The ghoul teeth used to submit the night watch mission were put into his pocket and quickly left. In the small town, it was already 3 o'clock in the morning. The newbie team had all fallen asleep one after another. Occasionally, the sound of snoring could be heard from Blacksmith Wan Lee's room. However, there was one person in the team who was not asleep. Mia, who was wearing a half-mask, was sitting on the top floor of the house, observing the situation in the surrounding streets. To be exact, she was purely waiting for Han Dong to return. Scumbag. A complete scumbag. Mia pouted. You already have that handsome blonde boy, and now you're hooking up with Commander Keeman's grandson. What's with the shopping exchange plan in the middle of the night? It's been a few hours and he's still not back. Could it be that they were communicating on the bed? Scumbag. I'm going to tell that blonde boy about this. At this moment, Mia's unique night vision discovered the two people walking back from the side of the road. She could not hear the conversation clearly, but the two of them appeared to be intimate. Han Dong's figure was slightly thin and small. Because of their shared experience in the night watch incident, Abel habitually put his arm on his shoulder. Nicholas. That's great. When the training is over, we can receive an additional night watch medal. In the future, when you take the investigator qualification exam, you can choose the special position of night watch. When you disappeared halfway, I was worried to death. Fortunately, you're fine. It's a small matter. Captain, have a good rest. Okay. The two of them returned to their rooms. Abel fell asleep as soon as he lay down. The intensity of the first day's operation was far beyond expectations. Even if Abel's physical fitness was good, he still couldn't bear it, especially the subsequent ghouls hunting, which almost exhausted his physical strength. As for Han Dong, it was still okay. The barber's matter was basically Togu fighting the whole time. For the night watch mission, he was only responsible for guiding the way. When he just entered his room on the first floor, creak, creak, there was a series of scratching sounds. The humanoid spider shadow was lying on the glass window. Its mouth full of venom seemed to be repeating two words, and its eyes were full of resentment. Chapter 217. Han Dong, who had returned to his room, completely ignored Mia, who was lying outside the window. After using the water from the well, he washed up and fell asleep on the bed. Seeing that Han Dong was completely ignoring her, Mia pouted and looked quite angry. She quickly crawled away. It's a little strange. According to Mia's personality, she should find a way to crawl into the room and argue with me. Who cares about her? Let's sleep. He slept all the way until noon the next day. When Han Dong walked out of the room, all the members of the squad were gathered on the first floor, eating the convenient food that they brought with them. Among them, Mia no longer clung to him. Instead, she deliberately leaned very close to Abel. The two of them chatted with great interest about their studies while eating lunch. During this time, Mia also looked at Han Dong, seemingly conveying a message of stealing a man. Han Dong looked helpless. He took out the mixed grains from his bag and sat alone in the stairwell to eat. He thought about some things about the Mgul factory. At this moment, a force field came from behind him. What's the matter? Wen Li, Vice Captain, how did you know I was looking for you? Your hand is almost on my shoulder. Who else are you looking for if not me? Hee. Can you give me a seat? I want to eat with the Vice Captain. Okay. Han Dong moved to the left. Wen Li sat down. She was still holding a large steak covered with cheese in her hand. Wen Li had a fiery red ponytail, a black muscle vest, and loose linen pants. She had a muscular outline and wheat-colored skin. She also had an exaggerated eating style that was not pretentious. No matter how one looked at it, she did not look like a trainee knight. She looked more like a construction worker. Vice Captain, do you want to eat? Wen Li took out a compressed sausage from somewhere. No need. Wen Li had to put the sausage on the steak to increase the meat content. That. Vice Captain. Actually, I have a favor to ask of you. Well, it's because you're the one in charge of the team's actions. Today, we're going to the barn area. Can you let me take the lead? I didn't accomplish anything yesterday, and I even almost got you injured. I want to do something for the team, or else I feel so useless. Wow. I bit my tongue. Wen Li was so excited that she bit her tongue and almost threw the steak in her hand away. Sure. Upon hearing Han Dong's reply, Wen Li immediately forgot about her pain. That's great. Thank you, Vice Captain. Because he didn't do anything yesterday, the guilt in his heart had been oppressing him all night. When she heard that Han Dong was going to give her the task of being the vanguard, she was so excited that she opened her arms and hugged Han Dong. His body, which had been strengthened by the G-virus, was being squeezed like this. There was actually the sound of bones being compressed. Let go, I'm sorry. Wen Li had an apologetic look on her face as she lowered her head and asked, Captain, do you have any weapons or armor that you need to forge in the near future? Although I'm not as good as my master, I can still use a high-grade furnace and forging table. I should be able to satisfy your needs. When there's a need, I'll look for you. Han Dong naturally had plans in this regard. The plague doctor's dagger will reach its limit sooner or later. Han Dong could plan for the next weapon in advance. By the way, can you forge a staff? Yes. The melting and manufacturing of magic crystals can be achieved. When this training is over, Vice Captain can contact me at any time. Okay. Then, Vice Captain, can we exchange contact information? Okay. After lunch, the freshman team that had fully recovered set out again and headed to the wheat field area. At the intersection of the wheat field and the forest area, the barn inferred from the clues was here. Next to the barn, there was an old windmill that was about 10 meters tall. On the decaying windmill blades, there were 3 neutral crowmen standing. They had crow heads and their bodies were covered in feathers. Below the head, they were humanoid. They just sat there on the windmill blades, their black eyes watching the group of people passing by below. If they sensed any danger, these crowmen would quickly fly back to the forest. You guys go to the barn first and submit the clues to the gatekeeper. I'll be there in a bit. Okay. Han Dong deliberately stopped at the bottom of the windmill and looked up at the crowmen. Early on when he entered Gaines Forest, Han Dong had already seen a double-headed crowman. At that time, when they looked at each other for a short while, it gave Han Dong a very strange feeling, as if he could communicate with these crowmen. This feeling was especially strong when he looked at these crowmen at such a close distance. Why would he have this feeling? Han Dong suspected that there was a connection between the little magic eye, the faceless head, and the mark given by the crow prophet. Perhaps the origin of these crowmen was related to the head. How to communicate? Han Dong remembered how the yellow-robed man communicated with him. Han Dong leaned down and put his right hand on the ground. Tentacles grew from his palm, recalling the strange words that only the little magic eye could understand. Caw caw caw. Following the movement of the tentacles, Han Dong wrote a series of twisted words on the paddy field. The general meaning was, nice to meet you. The crowmen who received the text caw caw caw, apparently very excited. Han Dong tried waving at them. Who knew, the 3 crowmen immediately flapped their wings and swooped down. When the group arrived at the barn, they heard the crows caw and turned around, just in time to see the crowmen swooping down. They thought that the crowmen were going to attack Han Dong, who was alone and prepared to help. But what happened next shocked the entire group. The barn's main entrance was facing the other side, so the knight in charge of guarding it didn't see what happened to the windmill. The 3 crowmen who swooped down were sitting in front of Han Dong, completely motionless and obedient. The crowmen had a sturdy black beak. But due to the effect of humanization, the beak also had a mouth structure, as well as a vocal cord structure, so they had the basic ability to speak. Crouching in front of Han Dong, they were eager to communicate. Bring someone ah? They can speak? Han Dong was surprised. However, with such a low level of language ability, communication was still a bit difficult. Han Dong tried putting his hand on the crowman's forehead to communicate. Who knew? The crowman he touched actually rubbed himself against him with a comfortable expression. Han Dong also tried touching the other 2 crowmen, feeling as if he was taking in 3 wild pets. When he was alive, Han Dong really liked pets like cats and dogs. Occasionally stroking a cat would calm him down. Stroking a cat and a dog was normal. Crowmen. For the citizens of the Holy City, this was something that no one had ever done before. Chapter 2:18. He reached his hand out and touched the crowman's forehead. The crowmen spoke incoherently, up, reach in. Han Dong naturally understood what the crowmen meant. Tentacles came out from his palm. Even in a friendly state, Han Dong could control the tentacles to prevent them from attacking. He only used the tentacles to touch the crowman's brains to establish a mental connection. Ting. Mental connection. Sir. Hello. I am Dozier Crow. They are Glass Crow and Ragey Crow. Our nest is in the forest not too far away. Because we caught your scent, we risked our lives to fly into this dangerous manner. We only dared to stop at the border. It's a good thing that Sir is here as well. Han Dong was a bit surprised. He didn't think that these crowmen who evolved from crows would also have a complete mental state. They weren't dumb at all when it came to communication. You can also sense the danger here? Compared to you, sir, although we are inferior, we can still sense the basic strength of a scent. If Sir needs our help, we are willing to die for you. These crowmen also had a similar faith. They were able to give up their lives for Sir Han Dong as soon as they met him. At least in this aspect, humans couldn't compare at all. There was a fundamental difference between a person who didn't fear death and a normal soldier. There's no need for that. I'll take care of things here. I have a question, please ask, sir. Why do you think I'm Sir? Which part of my body makes me appear to be on a higher level than you? The Dozier Crow slightly turned its head. Actually, we're also very curious. After all, sir, You look exactly like a human and also give off a human scent. However, within this scent, there is still a chi that belongs to you, sir. Because one of your traits is related to us crows, we were able to recognize it. Other animals can't. You still haven't answered my question? Which part of your body? Head. So it really is the head? About my head, how much information can you recognize? I'm currently disguised as a human and infiltrated the holy city to gather information. I need you to give me a definite answer. Hearing Han Dong's question, these crowmen appeared a bit nervous. I can't see it. I can't see anything at all. I can only faintly feel that your head is far superior to ours through your crow trait. However, this feeling was very weak. I can't tell which category you belong to. All right? Han Dong nodded. Sir, if there is nothing else, we will take our leave. The three of us don't want to stay in this stinking manor at all. If you're done here and need to return to the holy city, you can summon us to escort you. This is it. Han Dong sent some information into the crowman's mind. Good. We will definitely do it. Han Dong removed his palm and ended the communication on the consciousness level. Caw caw caw, the three crowmen showed an obedient look as they spread their wings and flew back to gain forest. When Han Dong returned to the barn area and rejoined the team, everyone stared at him in surprise. Even Demps showed a rare look of curiosity. The crow ruffians seemed to be very interested. Blacksmith Wonley asked first. Wow. Nicholas San, how are you able to get along with the crowmen so peacefully? Although they are neutral, once they get close to foreign objects, they will become very vicious. Just now, they seem to be very obedient to you. I had a strange feeling of being able to communicate with these crowmen from the start. That's why I told you guys to go first. I'll try to see if it's normal. I didn't think I would be able to do it. This seems to be directly related to the mark that Mr. Black and White gave me. Han Dong pointed at the back of his right hand, where a crow mark was faintly discernible. As long as it was related to Mr. Black and White, no matter how strange it was, everyone could understand, so they didn't ask too much. However, those three crowmen are a type of low-level wild monsters. They are afraid of the manor and don't dare to enter, so they are useless. Let's go. Let's go to the front door of the barn. At the entrance of the barn, there was a knight with a strong back and a strong waist. He faintly emitted the aura of a ferocious beast, and normal knight squads didn't dare to approach him. Under the hood there was a scary face full of stubble, with 3 claw marks on his fierce-looking face. However, the situation this time was a little different. When the knight guarding the barn saw that the leader of the knight squad was the white-haired Abel, his original ferocious appearance disappeared without a trace. Instead, he revealed a simple and honest smile, and the fierce-looking muscles on his face trembled. His standard standing posture when standing guard also immediately relaxed, and his big belly immediately stuck out. Young Master Abel, why are you here? It's very dangerous here. It's better for you to carry out the basic mission. The knights in the Behemoth Knight Squad definitely knew Abel. However, Han Dong had never seen a knight who revealed himself like this. At first glance, he could tell that he was a professional bootlicker. No, it should be a bootlicker. Even Abel used honorifics, and his bootlicker was just right. He wondered what kind of bootlicker this person would be in front of Captain Came On. Uncle Sanderson, we are here to carry out a mission. This is the clue we collected in the wheat field area. According to speculation, our next step is to enter the barn. This Bearman uncle named Sanderson stared at the 3 clue letters in his hand with the seal of the Behemoth Knight Squad, revealing a shocked expression. This new team completed 3 basic missions in just one day. It was really unbelievable, young Master Abel. With your strength, you are worthy of being the most recognized descendant of the great Captain Came On. I'm really lucky to be able to join the Behemoth Knight Squad. I hope I can live until the day you become the captain. Abel smiled awkwardly. That? Uncle Sanderson, let's get to the point quickly? You should have an advancement mission for us, right? Yes, there is indeed a mission for you. At this moment, squeak, 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 the sharp and fierce sound of birds resounded through the sky. At some point, a man with a Mediterranean hairstyle with a vulture standing on his shoulder had appeared in front of everyone. Captain Kenny! The Bearman uncle immediately bowed 90 degrees, some sweat overflowing from his forehead. Captain Kenny was quite strict when he trained his troops on a daily basis. Sanderson, leave all the matters in the barn to me. You go to the town area and carry out the patrol mission. Yes, Captain. After the Bearman uncle handed over all the work, he left. Kenny stared at Abel and the others with a serious face. Sanderson is not suitable to open the advancement mission of the barn for you, so I'll take over. First of all, I'm very happy to see a group of excellent freshmen like you have outstanding performance on the first day. However, the advancement mission is different from the basic mission. This barn hides the biggest threat in the wheat field area. The goal is related to the curse, and the difficulty is 5 stars. I advise you to consider giving up this mission. If you are willing to give up, I'll lead you out of the manor and go to the Gain Forest for survival in the wild. According to the number of wild monsters you kill, you get points. It's enough to let your points reach the good standard. As the captain and vice-captain, you can also get the good evaluation. Han Dong did not hesitate at all and decisively rejected such a proposal. Captain Kenny, we still want to look at the barn mission scroll. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.